Knight d2, d6, I imagine black's very happy. So the center's open, bishop goes to g2, well, attacks g2. I don't like it for white.
Interesting.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's one very, very delicate position. I imagine white, white's not worse here, but has to be very, very careful not to end up in a worse position.
Bishop e3. We'll keep an eye on this one. And where would you like to take this?
Let's check Wesley's game. He's also one of the co-leaders coming into this round. He's playing Ivan Saric.
Ivan Saric. And, well, it looks like a vacuuming has just taken place.
They've traded a lot of pieces.
Yes. This is from the Scotch ending. But c2, c4.
What does white usually play here?
Well, I'm more familiar with ideas of bishop g5, h3, and queen f3.
Okay.
It's c4. And also the knight somehow is supposed to be on c3 as well. Okay, anyway, they're getting to this ending. Both players have played very, very quickly. f4.
Wouldn't expect that, but
no.
I guess if white wants to have some kind of advantage or try for an advantage, they have to take a risk. f4.
And b2, b3, that's a move that indicates that, well, I don't really have much of it. If you're playing for victory, you're going f5, right? You just have to throw it out there. Okay. And by the way, g6 is a novelty. Okay, h6, normal. Yeah.
Wow.
And let's remind everybody about Wesley's day. No draws. I mean, it's a signing that it's a story we're talking about.
Yeah, he started by defeating Fabiano Caruana.
Huge victory.
Then he was holding against Magnus Carlsen, but Magnus played some magic tricks and outplayed him in the end game. And then, taking down the leader Anish Giri yesterday in a pretty much lost position.
Yeah. And tied for first place. Let's jump to the game, if you don't mind. Magnus versus Alireza. That, for me, was a marquee matchup coming into today's round. As we saw, Magnus was a little late, keeping everybody...
It was just a few seconds.
Bishop d7, e2, e3. Boy, I'm really having a hard time. I mean, that was not a move that, would really... I'm thinking mind, right? Bishop b2.
Of course.
E3, c4, and very quickly, hanging pawns for white. By the way, hanging pawns with the bishop d7, yeah?
It makes sense because now we play knight rook c8 quickly and knight a5.
And Magnus is offering a pawn.
Just hanging? It is, right?
Well, let's take a look.
Takes, knight e5.
Yeah, munch. And let's just say, okay, I'm a pawn grabber.
Do you go back rook c7?
Yes, I do.
Of course you do. Maybe bishop f4?
It's a kind of a ghost threat, right? You're not really...
Yeah, it just looks nice.
It looks nice. It looks pretty. Bishop e7.
Maybe rook c1?
That's kind of helpful, right? Because
Well, you'll still have to spend another tempo defending the pawn.
Do I? Am I trying to equalize, or am I trying? I mean, you're right. If I have to play bishop here, but I've got bishop b5, I've got castle. I don't think that this is...
White has an advantage here.
Yeah. Miro, there's a pawn sacrifice on offer.
Yes, you've identified it right. The pawn is indeed hanging. Take it. Knight c4, rook c4, and knight e5 are the correct moves. However, here. Well, this thing insists that you absolutely have to include the intermezzo, bishop a4. And the reason for that after rook c7, white is not developing the bishop. White has a very powerful move, d5. Breaking the center open while black still has the bishop on f8 and is unable to castle. And then, so basically a lot of tactical tricks, one of them being if you take with the knight, so bishop takes, pawn takes, and white all of a sudden has knight f7, the move you would not expect here to be here, but then after king takes, queen to d5. No, hang on, there was queen h5 first. Yeah, queen h5 first. You don't have a place to go. because now g6, queen to d5, you cannot block with the bishop.
Queen is
and yeah, where do you go? Here, here. Bishop b2. The king is haunted, and yeah, nothing you can do. So
that is quite
after d5, well, basically black
bishop
has to play
d6.
bishop d6, then knight d7, rook d7, less exciting, but still better for white. Yeah, captures, white goes queen b3, wins back the pawn, has two bishops. Not
Impressive.
really pleasant for black. So black absolutely has to go bishop a4, queen goes to e2 or f3, even computer's not sure. So this is one of those, I believe, very modern style of positions. Like when you sacrifice a pawn and you don't have something concrete that you can formalize, you have what we call dynamical compensation. So basically you're creating threats every move, right? And back in the day, we all believed, okay, this sort of initiative evaporates eventually, and black's going to have a pawn or maybe two pawns if he captures on d4. But now computers shown us that you can hold to this initiative for a very, very long time. By the way, rook d4 is a very bad move after bishop b2. White is, I thought rook d2 was, to be honest, but then, yeah, like some tricks, queen to c4. Yeah, so White's potential initiative is not to be underestimated.
Wow. Thank you, Miro. And how do these two match up their lifetime?
I'm sure they've played a lot of games.
Oh, wow.
So 33 draws, 70 wins for Magnus, 37 for Alireza. How have they managed to play this many rapid games between them?
It's remarkable. And, you know,
150 games.
What Magnus was doing, what Magnus has been doing to the rest of the field, 2-1, 3-1, 10-1, this isn't that bad. But when you think about Alireza in his youth, how did they manage to play 100 rapid games against one another, or nearly 200?
Yeah, that's surprising.
Okay, but look, I'm sorry. You've played rook c8, bishop d7, knight a5. If you don't take the pawn, what have you been doing for these last few moves?
Well, in fact, it does seem that black has to enter this variation, like take on c4. Knight e5 and go bishop a4. This computer sees as roughly balanced.
He's played bishop b4. He didn't take the pawn.
Well, so he went bishop b4, which was, I think, the other move that computer thought was good. Okay, yeah, before capturing. Bishop to b4, yeah. And then
he spotted something that just
And then again, you have a variety of choices with white. You almost in every position, if nothing is hanging, you can go d5.
Right.
Which I don't quite understand what it means, but yeah, like d5 is one of the moves. Rook b1 is one of the moves as well. Maybe a bit more natural, if you ask me. Bishop is attacked. Bishop d2, knight d2 was to happen. And then I imagine capturing on c4 is dangerous because bishop a3. Not only white can win the pawn back, but say something like this was to happen. You can see the eval bar going white's favor. And indeed, bishop a3 is the strongest move. Stopping the castle, and that's worth much more than a pawn. Yeah, so if he trades on b1, he has to castle, and we are getting this tricky position. So hanging pawns, white has a pair of bishops, but I'm afraid white cannot keep the c4 pawn on c4. Like he can keep it, but he cannot keep it on c4. And the moment he goes c5, your hanging pawns lose like huge part of its attractiveness, right? So you vacate the d5 square. So bishop c6, black is already like smiling at you.
Right.
Bishop c6. So you don't want to be playing c5.
Right.
Okay.
Bishop b4.
Bishop to b4. Yeah, variety of choices for Magnus.
Yeah, but rook b1, knight e5 look very logical.
Yeah, rook b1, bishop takes, knight takes, castles, and what is the move? And now it's a mystery to me because computer says, you know what, you don't want to defend c4. You don't have to. Rook e1. Then the moment black takes c4, you take b7.
Yeah.
But I imagine in this case, you're not really playing for a huge advantage. There is no longer initiative on the king, it's more about like, you take my pawn, I take your pawn, and we are all happy. Right, bishop c6, by the way, to stop me speaking about two bishops advantage.
Well, I'm going to play bishop f1. I thought that was... Oh, no, d4 is hanging. Oh,
They're only 11 moves in, and they've both spent a significant amount of time already. 10 minutes down.
They've managed to really
surprise each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Reshuffling of the deck. I mean, let's take a look at the statistics. And what day one did it shake up our percentages?
So pre-tournament, no surprise, Carlsen was a huge favorite at almost 70%. Firouzja and Fabi in second and third. Let's see if after first day that changed. We do know we have 4 co-leaders, and Fabi and Firouzja are not one of them.
No, both Fabi and Firouzja slipped down.
Looking at the pie chart, it's just Carlsen's tournament. Over 80% already.
That's crazy.
Even
and
though Wesley and Duda are
Duda
sharing first place with him.
By the way, Miro, because you were unable to join us yesterday, you didn't get a chance to tell us who is going to win the event.
Well, is it fair? I know the leaders.
We will allow
from
you.
What I can understand, I'm not allowed to pick Magnus Carlsen, right?
More or less.
Right. So you're pushing me towards and I'm pleasant. Well, let me go with Duda then. Okay.
Who is impressed?
Yeah, he had a rough start in terms of opponents. He's done very well.
Yes.
He's known to be a very good blitz player.
Yes, he is.
Do you know once I called him Blitz world champion among humans? When Magnus won with tremendous score and Duda was the second, 3 points behind.
That's nice.
Yes, Duda can play very well in Blitz, and so can be a candidate.
There's one game we still haven't looked at. It's Fabi against Praggnanandhaa, and we had the French defense. Prag has been playing French. I think even in the candidates he was playing it 2 years ago.
Interestingly enough, it's sort of like the French defense almost stopped being played. It was considered too risky.
So maybe
and
Incr
now,
brought it back because he played it during the match.
The World Championship match. And let's see what line of the French Fabi knight c3.
Miro has some thoughts about it.
I just wanted to mention that bishop e7 is a bit unusual moves order.
That was my old move, bishop e7.
Yeah. And look at the current position on the board, because computer has f7, f6 marked with a question mark.
Okay.
However, I'm not entirely sure, because it's very often that they sacrifice the c6 pawn. So I imagine, well, at least computer's version of why f6 is bad is because white takes on e6. And then we have to investigate, because it's not impossible, like seeing the king in the center, it's not impossible as something like that, the move that is criticized by the computer.
As well.
I'm just looking at it, knight f8, and so even king f8 is possible. Like you're stuck in the center. Knight e6, there is also rook e8, and then, it's an X-ray on this king. Well, and computer, of course, doesn't care. Maybe there is a tactical explanation why computer doesn't care. Bishop d3.
Guess what?
You would go fe5 and say, I'm winning.
No.
And you would be, but there is bishop h7.
Oh,
and then you cannot take on h7 because, the Greek sacrifice, knight to g5, and white has too many knights. Right. And queen h5, and white is winning. So apparently the strongest move after bishop h7 is to go to h8, which you do not enjoy doing,
right?
And white is much better after bishop g6. So I was wrong by not being wrong. Optically, it doesn't look so good for white. If you try to play him like, I'm a pawn up, I want to defend, I want to develop my pieces, go castle short. No, that wouldn't work, but you have to play for initiative yourself, bishop d3, and be ready to sacrifice on h7.
So should black take on e5 with the knight here? To avoid getting checkmated?
After bishop d3. Knight e6, rook to e8, bishop d3. Knight takes e5, and then, white captures on e5.
Queen
and
h5.
I imagine now queen h5 is on a plate. Yes. What computer does, it eliminates this knight. Mm-hmm. And then knight to c6, b c6, castles. and white actually doesn't have an extra pawn. Am I right?
Where did the pawn go?
Yeah. White's better though, according to the machine, because now it's like absolutely different factors in play. It's more about like both kings castled, so it's a pawn structure. Queen c2, attacking h7, later playing c4. We might get Saric game, or
right?
Saric Wesley saw.
Bishop on d5.
But I guess better version for white. Queen to c2, h7, h6 is not very nice move to play. Yeah, something like that can easily happen.
Thank you, Miro. And how do these two players match up?
Let's see, Fabi and Pragg. Not too many games between them.
Not 100.
No, 6 wins for Fabi, 2 wins for Pragg, and 3 draws. So Fabi's the favorite, but by not that much.
Exactly. Both these players in day one finished day one at -1, a loss and a few draws. Once again, just to remind how big a victory between these two. Somebody would bounce up.
Absolutely needs a win. And because of the scoring system, they get 2 points right away.
Right.
They'll jump up. Yeah, they can't make draws.
Yeah, they'll draw themselves up. F7, F6. And I can kind of appreciate why Fabi is really taking... By the way, what are the clock times?
Pragg spent a lot of time maybe on this last move f6 because he's down to 8 minutes.
That's what I'm looking at, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, it is game 25, right? I mean, and what move number are we on?
But Fabi's also spent a lot of time. He has 13 minutes. It's
for 12 moves.
Yes, yes.
They really have slow played it. When you see the move f7, f6, you also think to yourself, well, what if I just take it?
Take first, e5 is not possible yet. So we take, with the knight, probably.
You're going to recapture with the knight. Okay, so
then bishop d3.
I understand bishop d3, but I understand bishop
h3
as well.
That's interesting.
Just, I mean, if I'm super greedy and I provoke you to play e5.
Yeah, e5 might still be a good sacrifice.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes I can force you to, and I could play bishop g2. I'm not sure. That is why Fabi is going into this deep think. But let's pause our analysis and toss it to Zagreb and Christian. Over to you, Christian.
And I have to say, that game is absolutely fascinating because these two players have been having a French discussion for quite some time as well, and they've met at the candidates, and Pragg with black pieces did play the French in that one, so they've been going back and forth in the French defense. Pragg, in fact, had a better position at the candidates with the black pieces, but right now, Fabiano, just before this last move, f6, he was really feeling confident. He was blitzing out, more or less, close to blitzing out his moves. He had about 18 minutes before this move, f6, has surprised him. It seems like right now he's trying, we see the question mark, of course, attributed by the engine, but this is just simply going to be a wild position developing in the middle game. Now, a concept that I do want to talk a little bit about because I see it in 2 games happening at the same time is this one. The game between Magnus and Alireza. I was in the playing hall after this move, bishop to b4. Magnus took a lot of time off his clock on his decision, and he played the move knight to e5. The question is, and the question that Alireza pretty much asked after with this move bishop to b4 was, at some point I'm going to win a pawn. I'm either going to take the pawn c4 because I'm going to eliminate the knight on d2 and then take on c4, or I'm going to take the pawn on d4. You have to sacrifice a pawn to maintain your initiative as white. And Magnus decided to do so with the move knight to e5, a good move. Bishop to c3, and at this point I was trying to calculate as well, and expecting Magnus to continue with bishop to a3, sacrificing maybe even more than an exchange and a pawn. You take on d4, then I defend the knight on e5, and then you have the opportunity to take on a1 as well. But I have full compensation, and it's given by this bishop on a3, which blocks the king from ever reaching safety. You simply cannot go castle. You're going to get stuck with the king in center, and right now I'm going to have a tremendous attack as white. I can even go ideas with f4, f5 to try to open up the position. If a knight manages to find its way to d6, then it's pretty much game over. So a lot of compensation for white. And the same concept is being applied in this game between Nodirbek and Gukesh. Gukesh, with the black pieces, as you can see, sacrificed the pawn on c5 for the same reason. I'm just going to stop your king from ever reaching safety. Queen takes c5, bishop to a6. There's no more short castle. Obviously, you don't want to go long castle because rook to c7 would just get the queen off the board. Bishop to a6, queen to d4, g5, bishop to g3. I'm weakening my king. It feels like, as black, the king on g8 after g5, it feels weak. But unfortunately for white, you just simply cannot go h4. I mean, you can, but after g4, you're not going to open up my position. Your king is still stuck in the center on e1. And I have ideas of, once again, finding a way to get that knight to d3. Knight to c5, knight to d3. If I manage to do that, get the rook on e8, open up the e-file if I can. If all of these things are happening, I have enough compensation for the lost pawn as black. So Gukesh right now, he's trying to get that third consecutive victory in a row. Just an incredible bounce back after his first game loss. Back to you for the moment. I'll be here with more updates as the games progress.
Thank you, Christian. It feels like the round just blew up on us, Miro. Add to what Christian was saying about this game.
I was watching this game, Nodirbek against Gukesh, for quite some time, and I think there was, and a very optimistic, let's call it this, decision to capture c5. Yeah, because white, would he want safety? He could have captured on f6. Now gf6 makes really little sense. You don't have to take c5 anymore. You just castle. You're very happy. So bishop f6 would lead to a queen straight.
Right. Queen
f6, gf6, and white's still slightly better. I imagine black's position is defendable, but white is slightly better. However, after this capture, bishop to a6, queen d4, g5, exclamation mark, bishop g3, black is much better. And guess what? Knight e4, the move that was played in the game, is good, but what's better than knight on e4 is rook on e4. So the strongest move was, and sometimes we as coaches, we say, include all the pieces in the attack. So rook on f8 was not doing much. So you go rook e8, and your idea is to go rook e4 followed by d4, and then just smash them in the center. And white would have to do something along the lines of knight e5, but then this rook goes to c7, threatens to go to c2. You don't like it with white.
No, I'm surprised it's not winning for black.
I believe it almost is. Yeah, like knight d3, you go to c2. I imagine black wins some material at the very least.
Yeah. But just to interrupt you, we do have a result in the game between Ivan Saric and Wesley. So I thought I saw a draw pop up on my screen. So
I found some kind of perpetual.
A perpetual check at the end, as we do see a draw. Sorry to interrupt you there.
That was it. So knight e4
was played instead of rook e8.
A bit slower, but believe it or not, it's still, and last move, queen d1, it's such a mistake. d4, you play immediately, automatically, you just go d4. You wanted this move. Remember, I said you have to make a couple of rook moves to go d4. So this queen d1 voluntarily giving black this opportunity to go d4. d4 should end the game. No, because seriously, what do you even do?
Knight takes d4?
Knight takes d4, and then, capturing on g3 doesn't really work. But what works is rook to e8, and white is, if you think of it just like a tiny bit, white is in a zugzwang. White's paralyzed. You're never castling. You cannot move the queen.
Rook whenever takes d4.
Yeah, rook d4 immediately. Jumping.
Ouch.
Yeah. Rook d4. And if you consider rook e8, and you think, what's white's move?
Yeah, the next move.
There's nothing. There's a position where white is 2 pawns up, and compute evaluates is almost -4. So if white was 4 pawns down.
Well, Gukesh did not play d4.
No. Ooh, a big miss.
See what he played.
Rook to c8. But this, of course, allows white to reroute the knight on d4, and then all of a sudden white is, I would say, happy, can't castle still, but
f3, king f2.
Yeah, back to being relatively solid, f3. And white has potential to free himself.
Exactly.
Yeah, so d4 was
huge
needed.
miss. And by the way, you live for those, but you live for those moments when you've played bishop a6. Stop.
Yeah.
When you've played bishop a6 and your king is stuck in the center, you're playing d4 9 out of 10 times, so you get a
absolutely.
chance.
It's like if you ask yourself, well, why would you need this pawn, right?
Yeah, please take it away.
Yeah, if it's not here, you win it immediately.
Right.
You get the chance to get rid of it.
Right.
And it's not only, it's not only the d file, but also the queen sometimes captures on g2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was almost like an instinct, yeah?
Huge missed opportunity, and it's so intuitive as well. Let's just go around. Where did we...
let's go to Fabi's game, because I see Prag's queen is on b2, and I want to check that out.
How did
that get there?
Okay, so the move f7, f6, b2, b4, because here's where Fabi went into a deep thing, because obviously he was analyzing the calculating the variations with knight takes e6. He thought b2, b4, where's this queen going? The problem is the queen cannot go back to d8 because knight e6 wins the game.
Or c7, yes.
Or c7. So you have to go here.
I mean, maybe queen b6 was an option. Or knight takes b4.
Well, the sacrifice... Yeah, that's a good point. How many
Miro can tell us if that was working.
Well, knight takes b4.
I would never guess knight b4, even though you sometimes have these ideas in the French. But computer says knight to b4 not only is possible, but in fact is the strongest move, after which black is doing sort of okay.
Remarkable.
So queen a3, the move played in the game. Okay, we'll look at it further, but basically after knight b5, white is better, and that's what we are seeing, queen b2, and the continuation is rook c1. However, after b4, what's black to take? And how do you react? If you capture the knight, in this particular case, it's bishop check. You don't want to be going king e2, king e2, b6, and this is, again,
Stop.
doesn't end well. So you want to be blocking on d2, and then black just takes.
No. This is like a very good sacrifice.
Black has the center, black has the development. And how many? 3 pawns for the piece.
Yeah.
So that's enough material plus initiative.
But I think what Fabi must have been calculating was
knight to b3.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the best move. And then black goes queen to b6, right?
Queen b6.
And then again, if you take and black takes on e5, there is nothing good for white because he cannot capture on e5 at the very end. f2 is hanging.
Gotcha.
So it has to be a parade of intermezzos because you go bishop e3 now,
right,
and hoping for the queen to leave, and then you take the knight, and then black goes, thank you very much, queen is not leaving, I go d4, and then I don't know what's going on, man. Bishop takes d4, queen to c6 this time, pinning this knight on f3, so it would have been like incredibly, ridiculously sharp position.
That is
which amazing. Is like, considering the time they have on the clock, that's amazing. Yeah, look, it's 3 minutes for Fabi.
Let's catch up with the players. Fabi didn't play that rook c1 you suggested, Miro.
Yep.
He played rook b1, which got a question
b1,
mark.
queen a2, and then e takes f6. So now apparently white is no longer better. Black just has to, well, nothing crazy anymore. Knight takes on f6, and somehow, I imagine the queen survives on a2. That's the only question that bothers you.
Well, if you're you're white, you take the draw at this point.
That's what computer does.
Yeah,
that's what computer does.
I'm seeing knight e4.
It shows off with bishop e2, for instance, or bishop d3, but then after e5, it says, you know what, I changed my mind. Rook a1, rook b1, draw.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible, and by this point, maybe very likely, considering how low on the clock Fabiano Caruana is.
That's what I wanted to ask, Nasi.
Yeah, Fabi's down to 3 minutes.
Yeah, a draw is inevitable at that point because if you don't have, if you don't have a big material advantage, you just
unless
don't
you see how to trap this queen.
Exactly. And he's played e takes. Had he played the prescribed rook c1, which makes a lot of sense, because here you are threatening to trap the queen. Would that have resulted in an advantage?
Yeah, so let's find out what the difference is, because, I've said computer recommends this, and this is better for white, but what's the difference? Let's pretend black does absolutely the same, capturing on a2. And then you take on f6, knight f6, and then you go bishop d3, e5. Again, you cannot take, but the difference is you can play rook to c2. intermezzo, attacking the queen, and then e5 won't be hanging. And after queen a4, you can actually take on e5. So I don't think it's something like very dramatic, like the queen's getting trapped or anything. But say this exchange happens, bishop e5. Well, it's just positionally better. It's much better structure. The knight will end up on d4. White needs to castle, and he will castle. Yeah, so that was just the way to solidify the position, capitalize on a better structure. Well, not easy, though. Not easy. You see the queen on b2, you want to attack the queen on b2.
Right.
So it's Fabi's decision understandable. It was a weird game, I want to say, because it went from almost like pretending we are playing a classical game. They've spent a lot of time, in the opening, and then switched to playing blitz. There was no rapid game in here.
Right. We skipped the rapid portion.
Yeah, they did.
Should we go back to our key matchup, Magnus and Alireza, see how they're doing? I see they're entering time trouble. Alireza's down to 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's funny, the echoes between the Gukesh game and Magnus and Alireza. So, knight f3 takes.
Beautiful bishops.
Not so beautiful anymore, but there we go. And what do we have? We have bishops of opposite color, but a pretty nice.
The c-pawn.
Bishop
and
can anchor
it. C5.
Yeah, it can anchor itself. It looks like but
the
there's one problem.
Right, h1, a8 diagonal is very weak, but black bishop is not on the right spot.
Exactly. I mean, when you tell me you've played the move g2, g3, I ask, who has the light squared bishop? And even though if we just put a move on the board, bishop d6, rook c8, c5, I mean, recognizing that there's knight e4, it's not play on one goal. This light squares, I'm just actually curious. How does the machine judge this, evaluate this position?
Right, it's one of those evaluations that don't give you that much information. It's slightly better for 0.30, 0.40, so we figured this one ourselves, thank you very much.
Yeah.
However, like bishop d6, rook c8 is an interesting line, yes.
Yeah.
So rook to c8, well, apparently it's not the strongest move because white goes queen d4.
Okay.
And the reasoning here, from what I can pick up, that the b file is somehow important, and you cannot really challenge me on the b file. I was thinking some rook d8, but there is bishop e7. So the bishop is awkward, and if you go bishop c6, queen f4. Yeah, again, now computer surprises me with every move. So f7, f3, f2, f3, I guess.
We do have a few moves. We did not see bishop d6.
So he starts with queen d4, bishop c6. Now I guess it's different because whenever you play bishop d6, black's going to play rook b7. So they want to challenge you on the b file.
Rook d8 also, Miro?
After bishop d6, rook d8 was an option as well, and then white has to go c5. Yeah, so bishop d6 is no longer an attractive move. Yep, you're right.
So bishop c6 on the board.
Bishop c6.
And what are the clock times on this one, Nessa?
Both of them have 3 minutes.
Ooh, I think we went from rapid to blitz in this one because I do not see the players bailing out with a threefold repetition as I expect the Fabi game. You're just knee-jerk reaction. You got a position like this as white. You see that you've played g3. Who do you favor? Would you rather play black or would you rather play white's position?
White for now.
Why?
Because I have the c-pawn and I like my dark square bishop that I can use right away, bishop d6 and so on.
Okay.
But I will have to keep my eye on that g2 square for sure.
Exactly.
And I just noticed that Magnus looked at the clock and then he did, oh wow.
Like, where did my clock?
Where is my time?
By the way, once again, remind me about Magnus's clock.
He's now down on the clock, 2 minutes, 28 seconds. Not a lot of time in a complicated position to figure out how to get any advantage.
Exactly. Wow, and just to remind those folks who are joining us, how did Magnus do so far?
And we watched his interview. He wasn't very happy after the first day. The first draw was kind of uneventful. Then he did manage to squeeze Wesley, and then last round also wasn't very happy with that draw.
Exactly, but a technical masterpiece in game two. Just an absolutely an astonishing victory, literally from nothing. It's funny. I'm looking at this position. I'd actually prefer to play Alireza's position because the way I'm looking at it is, this knight is really good, but I'm not worried about the c pawn. I don't.
Because it's blockaded so well, right?
Yeah, it's blockaded so well. But the other thing was, I thought Alireza was going to play rook to d8 here, provoke c5, and I was looking at knight e4 ideas, imagining I get the old checkmate, knight g5. None of that happened.
I would agree with you that in time trouble it's easier to blunder this mates and the black knight jump into e4 g5.
I noticed that Magnus played the same move, the computer move. Yeah. I assume the whole idea here is just to stop the knight from jumping. F7 is far too weak. You're going to play c5. When you play the move c5, you don't want to see knight d5. So queen f4, actually, it's rather hard to explain. The queen looked really good on d4. But Miro, we're going to keep an eye on this one as you're going to send us over to Gukesh.
Yeah, absolutely. As players getting lower on time, you do see more and more mistakes. And we've seen world champion missing pretty much a win with d4, so the pawn got blockaded. But yeah, in a couple of moves, Nodirbek returns a favor. Knight c5, rook to c2, a4. And, what? I don't know. He had to play like h4 or something. White went king d2.
Well,
what?
Which at first deserves double question mark. Now it's actually, just a bad move. Computer a few seconds ago it was giving two question marks. The reason here is not something in particular, but just like the king on d2 is bad, rook to b7, and it was played, and black is threatening bishop d3 to finish the game. And I do not know.
So was his idea to go to c1 and hide?
Yeah, we can check that, but then knight d3, and like the king was stopped from castling short, but it's not like castling long was ever attractive, right?
Just rook c2 and
rook takes c2, followed by rook takes b2, black is just winning. Yeah, so Gukesh is about to win the third in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that's one
quite a
back.
hat trick, and again from the opening, very unusual a5. It really felt like Nodirbek had outplayed. He won a pawn and everything was going well. But now, with this move, king d2.
Nodirbek just never managed to castle, and now with the king in the center, he's close to losing.
Let me just bring that game up on my board because I suspect clock times are also a big factor here too, right?
Nodirbek down to 1 minute.
Okay, so as we say, finish me off. What's the great knight b3? It's weird. It's like the king's badly placed, but so is the queen. Knight
Gukesh
b3.
about to win his third game in a row.
I know, the hat trick.
I don't see any moves for white here.
Gukesh looked up like, okay, we're done. I'm going to have to take on c4, right? Rook takes c4. No other choice?
I guess.
Rook takes c4. Knight takes b. What am I doing?
I mean, your queen.
Rook takes b3.
Your queen's
it's check.
Too.
It's check. Sorry, I thought your queen was hanging, but it's check. Good morning, St. Louis. Knight b3. Well, that's it.
This position is hopeless.
That's all she wrote. Knight takes b3, bishop takes b3.
Things are heating up on other boards as well. Should we stay here though? Because
I just want to see the
he
one
might not
move.
survive for too long.
Bishop e1, queen a7. Almost automatic, right? You kind of just think to yourself,
honestly, any queen move should be game over.
True that.
Yeah, queen b6 just to take on d4 next.
Yeah,
this is it.
For Nodirbek, a bad day, Ron, no question about that. But also with the white pieces.
No, he might be tired. He's coming off from the Uzbek Cup tournament.
Yeah,
that just
was
finished.
Huge.
Prague
event.
won that event.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's not having a good start. You can
you show off a little in this position?
Show me.
Like after Queen B1, of course everything's winning.
Right.
But what I want to do is go Bishop E2 check, and then Rook takes and Queen D3 check. Just to show off. It won't happen though.
Gukesh has won 3 in a row. Our congratulations to the reigning world champion. And let's jump to Duda's game.
Sure, let's check out how he's doing.
Anish versus...
He looks better.
Duda. Yeah. Like, this was a very, very peculiar game. Hard to understand what was going on. Apologies that I just go back and...
Yeah.
Okay.
If you see this position, would you have guessed this came from Rui Lopez?
No.
Never.
No, not at all. Okay. And we do know
he has
that
nice 2 bishops.
That Duda has a very, very big score against Anish. Mm-hmm. Anish just does not match up well against Duda. And you can see already that Black is actually enjoying the proceedings.
I like H5 as well.
Oh my goodness. This is a very nice position.
He's dominating the whole board, but is it easy to win?
Okay, so imagine...
You want to trade queens? Queen
no,
F5.
but...
no, bishop is hanging on F4.
I understand.
Oh,
I was going to trade. I wanted to weaken this pawn, but I also made a weakness on the F5. Okay, so let's see how we should approach this. We've got the 2 bishops. Knight E3, Knight D5. I remember you telling me I want to put my knight. I want to transfer my knight to D5.
I still do.
And you still do.
Yeah, Black is better, and if we say all the generation of players have something right, it's intuition, Josip. Queen F5, you were spot on. Strongest move in the position.
Really?
Queen to F5.
I was reluctant only because I was thinking I'm going after a weakness on B3, but I'm also simultaneously.
Right, queen takes, pawn takes.
Rook.
If knight E3, just...
Fortunately, none of this happened.
It didn't happen.
Bishop F8.
Bishop
He'll
F8.
just take, yeah.
Okay, so knight E3. Now I'm not so sure, because if the knight gets to D5...
Yeah, there's some counterplay coming now from white side.
Yeah, I'm not just a punching bag anymore. I mean...
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to keep this one on hold as another one of our tournament leaders.
In trouble.
Whoa. Magnus in trouble?
Did he miss something?
Okay. Sorry, apologies. I just want to see how we got here.
Well, both players have very little time on the clocks. This knight G6 was a mistake. He missed Queen F3.
Queen X. Ooh. Oh dear.
In between moves, threatening mate in 1.
Mate in 1 will get your attention. Rook E1, a mate.
So knight E7 was played. And now Alireza is thinking he hasn't even taken it yet. He can play King F7, I guess. But he took now, Rook D8 check.
I think Magnus is now looking at bailout. He's trying to get it.
Yes, but he's down a pawn, right? So if Black now plays immediately King F7, which was much better than what he did.
He traded. Because now Magnus is going to go queen to D5 and immediately get into a rook ending, which he can draw. Mm-hmm. He's going to play rook check, and he's...
I don't think he's in trouble anymore.
Wow. And Magnus is looking up. He's like, okay, I just dodged a bullet. You know, like that was not my finest moment.
Isn't there still a bit of... Okay, we understand like Magnus is like technician of all times and so, but still like H5, you know, King H6.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's a pawn down. I mean, he's still going to have to suffer.
The names are reversed. Imagine Magnus Carlsen is playing this one with Black. We'd be telling people that, okay, he has an extra pawn and then he'll probably grind it out.
No, not at all. We would be...
Yeah, this will still be a long game, but compared to what could have happened, Magnus is very happy now.
Exactly. Just want to make sure about Fabi. They did not make a draw.
There's no repetition.
There was no repetition.
Yeah, this endgame will last for a while. Let's switch to Fabi's game against Prague.
Okay, and again, we knew coming in that both of these players would be seeking victory.
I see Fabi has 12 seconds.
12 seconds. Oh my goodness.
Pieces are just all over the board. So many things are hanging. What's going on?
I don't know.
Is he up in exchange now?
No.
No.
He's up a pawn.
Up a pawn.
It's easy for me to calculate because it's... No. The F1 is hanging, so... Oh, those tricky knight moves. If you go rook e8, you're walking into knight c7.
So he needs to play rook c8 now.
Rook c8, I'm going to move this rook to d1.
Yes, and it should be equal, but it's 5 seconds for Prague. Wow.
5 seconds?
3. Yes, he played
rook
3
c8,
seconds.
rook e1. Okay, just getting out of the discovered attacks.
So Black's down a pawn, but they have very active pieces. Can he maintain these active pieces now?
Okay, so I would probably play knight
You want to
f4.
trade something, right?
It's the funny, I'm a pawn up, and I don't want to go into 2 bishops versus bishop and knight because I think that's a draw. So I'd probably play what?
Bishop d5, I like this
Knight
move.
c5. I was about to suggest knight e4. Okay, bishop to d5. Should I play knight to d2?
Knight g5 is also playable, but you don't want to trade. So yeah, knight d2, but then maybe knight d4.
Oh, then
and I can force trades.
You did that very, very well. Knight d4.
It's played, yeah.
Knight d2. Both players
just playing with 10-second increment, yes. Knight d7.
That is a bold move. Knight c2. No. Sorry. Knight f6
scary,
comes with
right?
check.
Knight f3. I think he took this simplest way out. Now it's opposite color, bishop endgame.
Wow.
With the rook still on the board, but Black should be fine.
Yes, Black should be fine. Mira, where's the action?
Not much action left. Well, the best bet would be
Duda?
Giri's game against Duda.
Okay, let's go there. Again, 4 players are tied for first coming into this round.
Okay, this still looks very good for Black, no?
Well, bishops of opposite colors.
Yes, but we have queens and some attack going on.
h4 is hanging, queen g4.
Wait, queen b2 right now?
Queen b2, queen g4.
f5.
Oh.
Duda sees it.
Bishop f6 check.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, but that's what computer reckons is the best line.
It really
gives Black the advantage. And
in the bishops of opposite color position.
Yeah.
Queen to g4.
And if you don't go queen g4, you're just lost.
There's checkmate threat.
Right.
f5.
f5.
Attacking the queen. Don't give up checkmate. Bishop f6, discover
Bishop
check.
f6, and you capture, and bishop b2, and I imagine you go something
G3.
along the lines of g3, and then trying to get to the b3 pawn fast. I'm not even sure. Yeah.
What the heck?
Actually, g2 pawn is really bad, so white king will never be active.
Well, can I...
He played queen f1. Now, by the way, this game ended in a draw.
He played queen f1?
Anish
Queen
made a mistake.
F1.
Now Duda's winning.
And then Black is just winning. You return to, if you can get the position on the board.
I have.
Yeah.
This is the game between Anish, Giri. These two have made a draw. Not a result either player needed. But the problem is...
How do you stop the b pawn?
That's the problem. Queen c2 freezes your queen to the defense of g2. And...
This is just game over.
It's the B train.
I guess he has to sacrifice bishop f6 and Zag, but we don't even have enough pawns.
No.
Yeah.
The only thing I can imagine is I could play bishop f6 and what?
Bishop f2.
What did he come up with? So after b3?
I guess he's going to say
He wants to do some checks, maybe?
Yeah, I can move my queen.
Oh, it's like such a cynical way. Queen e1 and queen e4 for Black.
Oh.
Just stop everything.
The bishop is cut off.
Wow. Well, this is an impressive victory, impressive play by Duda, and Anish is shaking his head as he's recognizing that queen takes g2, checkmate, b2, and it's a coronation. Anish had to resign. But it was a very nice game right out of the opening. Duda seemed to understand. He understood the resulting position, which was a very difficult position to understand. But back to Magnus. Over to you, Miro, as Magnus is a pawn down and he's trying to save himself. Is he doing it?
Only game left, right?
Is that our last game? Yeah. Wesley.
Ooh. I like what Firouzja has done if you pull up his game on the king side. And how did the king make it all the way to c4?
Well, we've been talking
Does he
about
have some chances now?
Magnus's remarkable technical skills.
I see the Valbar, he's losing now.
Wow.
After his last move, Engine says black is winning.
Check. Rook.
Yeah, right now, I don't know how. Maybe king d3?
King to d3. Well, it looks like Alireza is just going after the a pawn now, right? Rook
g2.
Rook g2 first.
Rook g2 and just collected the g pawn.
Magnus looks
king
angry.
Rook f2.
Just Magnus looks like, what the heck? I think he just kind of like fell
asleep.
He's in
disbelief right now. How did I let this happen?
Truly. Well, king f4 is forced. You don't want to lose the
he's still losing it, though.
So you will, yeah.
Rook
f2, rook f3?
Okay, let's go. Rook f2. Oh, king e4.
I can even include f5 check.
That's what I'm afraid.
Yes.
He's done it. Now, rook f3, I think, is your intention.
But then you can go maybe rook h8 or rook b5.
Rook b5.
Or rook b5. Does f5 still work? Who knows?
f5 still works, right?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
But you would have rook h8 instead.
Yes, I agree with you.
So Alireza should...
Rook f3, rook h8.
Okay, Engine says now he missed it. After rook h8, Magnus is back.
Rook f3 was wrong?
Yes.
And he's done it.
Has found it.
But rook f3 was the most natural move in the position.
I know, hard to argue with it.
My goodness.
And now it says draw again.
f5 check instead of rook f3. VAR is saying that was the missed win.
Yes.
Clock times, I'm sorry.
Oh, they're both just playing on increment. Magnus has over a minute, but Firouzja down to 10 seconds.
Gotcha.
Now rook takes
down to
a5.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
So rook back to f3. I'm thinking in Firouzja's mind, he thinks he's still winning because he's got f5 check and g3 on his agenda. Why isn't he still winning?
Honestly, shocking that he's not winning. Rook a5 is the best move here.
Taking a pawn. Who would have thought? Rook a5.
And after f5, just play... Oh no, rook h8 is mistake. Now Firouzja's winning again. But he needs to play rook f1. Only winning move.
Rook f1. I thought f5 is the most natural move in the position.
Nope.
You could not resist yourself playing f5. Come on.
It's a very difficult endgame to play accurately.
Totally.
Especially with no time.
But can't I just go over here and collect the pawn? No,
For some reason, it's not winning.
King b4, h5, king a4. When you play h6, I'll then go rook h3.
This is so hard to understand. After rook g8, it says it's triple zeros.
Rook g8.
So f4, right?
f4, h5.
h5. The pawn does run pretty fast.
Truly. Okay, well, you got to do it. h5, you got to play rook f2 or rook f1.
Rook f2 played.
You got to play king b4.
King b4. Oh,
no.
He's taken f4, yeah. I think now it's...
You could have had the pawn on 8. Okay, I don't know. I thought you were going to play king b4, pick up the a pawn.
Okay, g6. Now rook g3, and is this an easy draw? If our king comes over quickly enough, but it will be cut off, right?
No, I think it's an easy draw, rook g3.
Can black include like rook e6 and...
No, because you still have to take the a pawn. I'll get king f5. So we're looking at rook takes g3, we're looking at king b4, and then we're just thinking to bring the king streaking back to the A file.
Miro, join us in this discussion. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it should be relatively easy draw. What's remarkable, King G3 is also a draw.
Really?
Yeah,
moving away.
You're doing kind of moving away, but the thing is, King B3, King F2, like even if you were to lose the A4 pawn, the check's on the side. And then normally the king should be hiding behind the pawn, but that's a rook pawn, so you cannot go to whatever the row it would be. There is no past A row. Yeah.
So the idea is Magnus, he just wants to bring his king as quickly as he can to the A file, king to D2. You saw him play that move with alacrity.
Yeah, Magnus is confident now. He knows this is a draw.
And if you try to cut off the king, then immediately rook to C3.
Yeah, they've
and
traded.
The players are...
He'll stalemate, Magnus.
No.
Yes. No. Quite the game with both players missing opportunities. I think Magnus had an advantage earlier, but when he blundered, queen takes F3, he's lucky he didn't lose.
He really dodged the bullet, yeah.
He really, really did. And Magnus is shaking his head. He knows. You get lucky.
What a strange round. We had 2 wins with the black pieces.
Remarkable, but let's send it to Zagreb and Christian for insights.
Huge missed opportunity indeed, as you guys just painted out by Alireza, Firouzja, and in particular at this moment after king to e5, he was doing all the right things. He was putting a lot of pressure on Magnus, and Magnus, he made a mistake at this point. What he had to do was to play king to d3, avoid the check that's coming on c3 with rook to c3. He played the move rook to a8, a very natural move as well, because you're looking at ideas of capturing the black pawns. You understand that this rook is going to get to the g3 pawn, but in the meantime, what you're trying to do is get the h5 pawn as well. This was Magnus's idea. Alireza played the move rook to c3, king to f2, and king to e4, allowing rook takes a5. You cannot do this. You cannot play the move rook to a5 because unfortunately you lose the pawn on h4. I have connected passed pawns. Your a pawn doesn't really matter in the position as white. This is a simple win for Alireza. Now, he played the move rook to e8, Magnus that is, king to f5, the right move by the king, rook to a8, and at this point what he had to do was give the check on c2. Keep the king on f5 close to the pawn on h5, king to e3. Now I go behind the pawn on g3 to capture that pawn on g3. You take it with a check, and then I hide. I tuck the king on g6, defending the pawn on h5 at the same time. You will lose the pawn on g3 after king to f4, rook to f2, king to e4, rook to f3. I pick up the pawn on g3. I have connected passed pawns, and then I'm going to simply win this one. Keep the king on g6. This was the missed opportunity for Alireza. Another missed opportunity, and this was a much more difficult one to see, I have to say. Fabiano Caruana versus Praggnanandhaa. At this point, after e takes d4, Fabi played the move rook to b1. The best move in the position, and it's not easy to see. It's such a deep idea, was bishop to f4. I'm sure he canceled this move in his mind because of the move bishop to h3. You take my rook on b8, I take your rook on f1, and we go about our day. But the idea was rook to b1, I force the queen on a2, and this is a bad square for the queen. I'm not touching your rook on b8. I play the simple knight to d6. The idea being that if you move the knight at any point, now the rook attacks the knight on b6. If you move the knight at any point, you just simply lose the queen after bishop to c4. So this was a missed opportunity. After bishop f4, Fabiano would have had a winning position. After what he played in the game, he did not. So definitely some missed opportunities along the way, but still very, very, and plenty of exciting chess. Back to you in St. Louis.
Thank you, Christian. Nice tactic there with knight d6. We've reached that stage of our broadcast where we have to take a look at the standings.
Let's have a look at the updated standings after round 4. Now we have 2 co-leaders, Jan-Krzysztof, Duda, and Gukesh with 6 points, and only 2 players behind them, Magnus, Carlsen, and Wesley So with 5.
2 big wins there by Jan and Gukesh. Now we've reached that stage in our broadcast where we can check in with our friends at Q Boutique and ask them what's up. Simple, classic, and effortlessly versatile. This long-sleeve unisex denim shirt is designed for everyday wear, crafted from durable mid-weight cotton denim. This shirt balances structure with comfort, offering a modern take on a timeless staple. It is available at qboutiquestl.com for all your chess shopping.
Well, we have the Stomp the Commentator segment now.
Okay.
Let's see what the question
ready.
is. Which Grandchester event had the highest YouTube peak viewership without Magnus Carlsen competing? It's a very trick question.
Right. I'm going to go with the Sinquefield Cup.
I'm going to go with
C?
With A.
We've left you with me.
Well,
somebody's got to be right.
I gotta take the other one. You
yeah, exactly.
My guess would be A. Like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? The B correlates with C. These are two tournaments back to back. So if anything to be different, it must be A.
We'll find out the answer after the break. And as we go to break, Anastasia sat down with Gukesh.
Welcome to Zagreb, Gukesh. What kind of mindset are you bringing to this tournament?
The same mindset, I guess. Just to give my 100% in every game and hope for the best. Yeah, it's my first Rapid and Blitz event in this year, so there are some mental adjustments from classical to the faster time controls, which hopefully I will be able to do.
How important is it to show a good score on the first day of the event?
Yeah, it's always nice to start a tournament because it's not only puts you up on the scoreboard but also confidence or like your mental well-being. It's good to start that because then you get into the rhythm, you just start playing with the flow. So yeah, it's quite important.
What do you think about the field this year and whom are you looking forward to play against?
Yeah, as usual, all the top players or most of them are here in Grandchester and yeah, I guess playing against Magnus, especially in any format, is always special. So that's one game that I will be looking forward to.
Garry Kasparov joked in Twitter that it's better to bring extra heavy tables to Zagreb this time. And of course, everybody was following Norway chess drama. And I was just wondering, how was it in India? How much attention chess got after what happened there in Norway chess? And did you feel any difference when you came back to India?
Yeah, for sure. Chess is getting a lot more popularity in India and hopefully throughout the world. But especially in India, there's been a lot of developments, a lot of kids taking up the sport, a lot of attention revolving around chess. Especially after Norway, it wasn't much different when I went back to India. It was pretty much the same. But yeah, I did see the kind of memes and everything going around that game, which yeah, for spectators it's also nice to see such emotions showed on the chessboard, because it's usually chess players are usually I don't show so much, so I think that's also kind of why recently the attention has been growing, because chess players are, I think, getting a bit more expressive and open and emotions are overflowing. But
why do you think it happens? Why chess players became more expressive?
I don't know, but I think it's also because the popularity of streamers like Hikaru, Gotham Chess maybe, and all these people who are in general expressive when they play online. People see that and they get influenced, I guess. So, yeah.
What specific goals have you set for yourself this year, long-term goals or short-term goals?
Overall, I think, yeah, it was the same, just keep giving 100% in every game that I play and yeah, try to win any tournament that I'm playing. So yeah, it's the same, just giving my best.
What are you currently working on your chess? Any particular areas you are trying to strengthen?
Yeah, certainly last year's Rapid and Blitz was not great. I didn't play much, but whatever I played was not great. So this year, I guess, in the Rapid and Blitz tournaments to improve my score, and also to classical, to keep going higher. And yeah, in general, I believe in pure chess terms, there's still a lot that I can improve. So yeah, to keep working on it.
You decided to withdraw this year from the freestyle Las Vegas event, which will be coming after this one. Was it kind of a strategic choice?
I mean, in general, like, it was kind of mentally hard for me to take freestyle as seriously as classical or this year Rapid and Blitz. I mean, in general, the calendar is pretty full, and I thought to just give myself a bit more time to focus on other areas. And freestyle is something, it's great for chess. It's very good that it coexists along classical and Rapid and Blitz. But for me, I just feel like right now it's not the time for me to focus on it.
Your colleague Praggnanandhaa had a very good run recently. He won this tournament in Uzbekistan. Like, are you following his results, and is it some kind of a motivation for you also to improve your results? How important is this to be the number one in India?
Yeah, for sure. Prag has been doing really well this year. I think from the start he has been playing pretty much in every tournament he's been playing well. And it's only normal that it happens because the last year he had a very bad year, and in general, after a bad year comes a good year. I have this belief. So also he might have been more inspired to see how me and Arjun performed in 2024. So it's a constant cycle. Like, if one player does something, achieves something, it inspires the other players. And Prag performing like this surely motivates me to work harder.
Gukesh, I was wondering, what is something special you learned after all these years competing in the chess world?
Yeah, I've learned that when my back is against the wall, I do everything I can. Even I've noticed even in not only in chess, but even if I'm playing some other sport, if I'm down by a match point or something in tennis. I mean, I don't play it too well, but I still manage to give my 100% when my back is against the wall. So, yeah, maybe that is one thing.
Gukesh, thank you so much for your time, and all the best of luck for you in the tournament.
Thanks.
When you come to Croatia, you have to bring your compass with you.
You have to visit our national parks.
You have to climb the highest peaks.
And ride the wildest winds.
You will never walk alone on these hiking trails.
You have to raft here.
Fly there.
Cycle everywhere.
You have to come to Croatia.
Croatia, full of adventures, full of life.
10 years, one legacy. The Grand Chess Tour marks a decade of mastery where only the strongest chess minds carve their names into history. Each piece has its role, like soldiers in a grand army, with commanders to lead them into the tour's 10th year and a prize fund of $1.6 million. The Grand Chess Tour starts in Warsaw with the SuperBet Rapid and Blitz Poland, immediately followed by the SuperBet Chess Classic Romania in Bucharest, then off to Zagreb for the SuperUnited Rapid and Blitz Croatia, followed by back-to-back events in St. Louis, Missouri with the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and the Sinkfield Cup. And the culmination of the grand finale in the city of Sao Paulo, Brazil, will determine the 2025 Grand Chess Tour champion. Fight with every ounce of strength for victory. This isn't just a moment. This is history.
When you come to Croatia, you have to bring your appetite with you.
And you have to taste our food.
You have to try the world's most awarded cheese.
And enjoy wine tasting in any of our wineries.
You have to surprise your taste buds with truffles.
You have to eat here.
Drink there.
Enjoy everywhere.
You have to come to Croatia.
Croatia, full of flavors, full of life.
Welcome back, everyone, to our show. Let's take a look at our current standings after round 5. Now things have changed up. We have two leaders, Jan-Krzysztof, Duda, and Gukesh, after their beautiful wins, and then two players behind them, Magnus Carlsen and Wesley. And even Saric is the only player at 50%.
Having drawn all of his games, tell us about the pairings for this round 5 coming up.
Let's see what to expect. Wesley is playing Nodirbek. Jan-Krzysztof is playing against Ivan Saric. Alireza facing Anish, Giri. Prag against Magnus Carlsen, and I think our key matchup will be Gukesh against Fabiano Caruana.
Absolutely. And in the round that we just saw, we had a very disgruntled, I want to say, Magnus Carlsen as he stalked off the stage. It's like, what am I doing wrong?
Yet he's happy that he survived, though, because in that end game he could have lost.
Yeah, but he put such great pressure on himself, right? He's just so good.
Yeah.
He does not like messing up even in the slightest. And he knew that was a big one.
Of course. Should we find out the answer to our question?
I've already shared the answer. I am prepared to accept the prize.
Let's have a...
What was the question?
Which Grandchester event had the highest YouTube peak viewership without Magnus Carlsen competing?
I chose C.
I went with A, Mira went with B, and who is right?
Thank you very much.
Mira's right.
Yeah.
We forced him. All of you were wrong. I had no choice.
Ranks number 15 as the all-time.
This was during live viewership. Yeah.
Right.
Because afterwards it reaches over 100,000 views.
Yeah, because always the time zone differences, people going to sleep, waking up. But that's nice. That's something I'm about to forget. In case they want to use that one again, I won't know the answer. Round 5 coming up, and we were just having this conversation. What's going to be our marquee matchup? What is a game that we want to focus on? If you had listened to Christian at the start of the show yesterday, he would have told you Prague is the man.
The player to watch, yeah.
He's in 2025 as Prague's year. And you would think Pragg and Magnus would be our marquee matchup. But people
That'll be our backup.
Yeah, that will be our backup. Gukesh versus Fabi. And why did you like Gukesh versus Fabi?
Well, Gukesh versus Fabi. Well, Fabi was...
A hat-trick?
Hat-trick for Gukesh. Obviously, a world champion starting with a loss, and yet he's leading the tournament,
right.
Which happened with Tal a lot. Mikhail Tal was known for losing game 1. Right, and Fabi, I'm still kind of keen to see him winning a game, and then because he plays well. Even
he does.
The previous game, it was super complex. He's done very well, and then he misses this final touch.
He needs to catch his momentum.
Yeah. By the way, if you don't mind me being critical of Fabi for just a moment, he just played a game where he has 25 minutes at the start, and after 12 minutes, he was under 12 moves. He was under 5 minutes.
Both players were those.
Yeah,
I think he was just
time
following his
management
opponent.
was kind of terrible.
Not great, yes.
Yeah, Fabi, though, he's one of those players who tries to play the best moves, right? He's not very practical in this regard. Like, I'll play a reasonable move quickly. It's not Fabi.
By the way, I'm going to bring up the game of Gukesh and Fabi. Is this a new trend, or is it
everyone's playing
Knight F3, G3? Magnus is a trendsetter.
Of course he is, yes.
Now, we've seen C7, C5. Miro, if I could ask you, what's the second most popular move, or pardon me, what's the most popular move on move 2 for black in this exact position? Is it Knight F6? Is it C5 as we just saw Alireza play?
Or is it E6?
C5 by far not the most popular.
Not.
Knight to F6, yeah. People thought that you take a cent and then develop the knight.
Right.
So Knight F6, C6 is the second most popular.
And by the way, instead of Knight F6, how does Bishop G4 rank in terms of move 2 popularity? Yes.
You're asking the tough questions, yes.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Because that used to be a go-to move of mine.
Yeah.
In the
G6 is very strong on move 2. If we come to this, like, opening discussions. G6 is very strong on move 2 because after bishop G2, bishop G7, black is about to take a center.
Right.
You cannot allow that, so you go D4 and you have this very, very solid symmetrical Grundfeld setup.
Exactly.
So that's one of the ways to quickly equalize with black.
And here we see Gukesh and Fabi move very, very quickly.
D3, not D4. Yes, Magnus is a trendsetter. He played this yesterday and today, and Gukesh is also.
Are we about to see E2, E3, and kind of a? It's not a Benoni. Right? Yeah, it's not a Benoni, reverse Benoni. But after C7, C5, Miro, just give us the statistical breakdown. How many thousands of games are we in?
Not thousands, to be honest. 740, 50. But
you need a better database.
But if I may say, there might be, these games might not be that relevant because something has changed in this position. So now, for instance, after bishop B2, B4, bishop B2, after B3, like one of the moves that modern engines recommend is D4, which would never cross your mind because you know you're getting a Benoni setup and then a tempo down because it colors reversed and potentially the other tempo down because you played E6 and E5.
Right.
So you would think white has like a fantastic game and computer says, you know what, it's still a Benoni, it's still a bad structure for white. So a lot of stuff has changed like evaluation-wise. Right, so C5, and again, back in the day, you would consider, let's just castle, D4 is not dangerous. No, now white prefer to take, knight takes, knight C3. Let me check if this is, that's far less popular. Knight to C3, nothing too impressive. 33 games, I imagine positions already roughly equal. Yeah, bishop F6 potentially, you challenge white's dominance on the dark square long diagonal.
By the way, you're about to eat your words. Knight C6, H4. Knight C6, H4.
Let me get back to Knight to C6, H4. So no castling in here.
No
castling in here. Yeah, that's a different story. I'm not saying it's a great move and white has the advantage, but that's the way to keep the game original.
Right. By the way, this was. Don't ask me why I was a kid. Somebody gifted me a book of games of Frank Marshall. And he was really, really famous for, just tossing this H-pawn out there so he could go knight G5 and let you take the knight, and open up the H-file. Frank Marshall liked attacking.
I think it was AlphaZero that popularized just playing H4, H5, H6 in every opening.
Exactly. Now, if you're Fabi and you're sitting there, okay, I need to win. I'm playing a guy who's really hot, won his last 3 games. Are you thinking, I should encourage? How could I encourage my opponent to continue?
We play H6.
But wouldn't I play bishop F6 and say, come get me? Keep throwing, keep throwing the patties.
Bishop F6, apparently
knight G5.
White's not planning to push the pawn. It's some knight G5 is what white wants to do.
Right.
So knight G5 and then, in some rare cases, maybe even sacrifice on H7. I don't know, but going to E4 is a thing. And of course, it has to be mentioned that this, although doesn't lose for black, but you can pick that this can be dangerous.
Right.
Have a next move computer recommends. I wouldn't get personally. So it's queen to C1.
It wants to take on C5.
Yeah, I guess knight D5, queen C5 is the idea. If knight C3, I imagine queen takes C3, and again,
that's good.
White is getting a very strong initiative, right? So,
Rook H5 is
Rook H5 is it, right? Absolutely.
That's nice.
Nice. Okay.
We should check how the other leader is doing, Jan-Krzysztof against Ivan Saric. We have a Sicilian here, very sharp Sicilian at that. Did it start as Najdorf? Yes, it was Najdorf.
Poison pawn Najdorf and the move knight B3, sidestepping. It's funny. If you really want to play the poison pawn, one of the things that I saw a lot of the players do is they toss in H6, queen B6, so you can't play knight B3 because there is actually a peshki on F4. This did not happen, I want to say. as queen b6, knight d7. You know, it's so, these days to see a mainline bishop g5 Najdorf is so rare. I just want to enjoy the position for a moment.
Me too.
I don't even know what the theoretical pronouncements these days are.
I'm glad that the players feel more comfortable playing these sharp openings in Rapid and Blitz.
Yeah.
And taking huge risks.
Yeah. They just throw caution to the wind.
I think this is already a new position, right?
Absolutely. That's to my surprise, because at some point I just stopped trying to make sense of bishop g5 Najdorf.
Of course.
You know, some people play it, some people know it. If you don't play, it's impossible to study. That was my belief. Right, so I would think if you tell me there is a position like that, so white castle long, white attacking on a king side, and it's only 14 moves played.
Right.
My estimate would be, okay, 500 games at the very least.
Right.
And it turns out, yeah, like knight b3 is already a bit rare.
Yes.
Right, queen to c7, not the most popular. They do like h6 and this and that. Anyway, after g4, it's only 3 games.
3?
Only 3, yeah, okay, let me double check. It's 3 games.
I would have lost a big
b5,
wager.
h6, and g5. So h6 was seen. And yeah, and rook g1, nobody played. So rook g1 is theoretically a new move, even though it's not a stunning, out-of-this-world novelty. The rook defends the pawn on g4, supports g5. g5, h4, knight to d7. All right. And we are getting to this, I want to say, typical conflict with, in these ideas with g5, that if you somehow exchange the f-pawn and move it forward, black's going to have a fantastic square on e5.
Right.
Say hg, hg, f5, knight e5. Well, looks very pleasant for black.
Yeah.
Looks very pleasant for black.
Yeah.
Can white do something about it? I'm not so sure.
I'm used to seeing e5.
Yes, can you try e5?
Yeah, fair enough. e5, if black is naive to take it, then
we can take on g5.
You can go f5, you can take
twice on g5.
g5 twice, yeah, and then
knight
square for the knight and so on. Yes.
And then the shoe's on the other foot.
Absolutely, but e5, d5.
Right.
And then f4 is undermined and e5 is weak. And I'm thinking, like, we have certain perception of positions like this, but normally it's with kind of correlated pieces being on the board. So white typically has the dark square bishop. Black typically has the other knight somewhere.
Right.
Right. So it's a little bit different. Like all those positions, like white not having the dark square bishop. Let's say black gets to put the knight on e5 and you don't have the dark square bishop. You're not happy with white, right?
Right.
Okay. So again, and I don't think it makes much sense to look at the compute evaluation here unless it's -3 or +3. I mean, one side winning, the other winning. Yeah. It leans towards black. Now it says equal, you know. But it is intriguing. It's a very sharp position.
Yeah.
Both players, just to speak about their tournament success for a moment, Duda coming off a very big win in round 4 as he's tied for the lead. But Ivan Saric, the wild card, has acquitted himself remarkably well, drawn all of his games. And
very solid tournament so far.
But not, yeah. There's a number of games where he's actually impressed. I'm looking at this position, Nasi, and I'm looking at e5, right? d5. Let me just go just a bit.
Once.
Take once. Play f5, right?
Oh,
just,
immediately.
Just to have some fun. By the way, it's their pieces, not mine, that I want to...
You're willing to sacrifice.
I'm willing to sacrifice their pieces. Bishop here. And of course, I'm telegraphing what I want to do. I want to sacrifice on d5.
Yeah, I thought we could do this even without f5.
Okay.
Before bishop g2 right now.
Bishop g2.
Because I was thinking if you take on f4, maybe bishop d5 already works.
Exactly. I'm not touching that bishop. I'm probably still playing knight takes e5, right?
Then maybe queen f4. Oh, knight d3. Hello, St. Louis.
Too fast. That hurts. That is a discovered check. You do not want to face it anytime in the early mornings.
I don't know.
fun game in store for us here. Miro, I'm going to throw it to you and ask you where the action is.
Where the action? Well, anywhere you like. I'm guessing Gukesh Fabi once again.
Please.
Should we check some other games we haven't looked at yet?
Yeah, just wanted to show quickly how it develops. So unlike the Magnus's game we were talking, so it's absolutely different structure, right? So here, c5 captured with a knight, and after h4, knight f6, isn't it like admitting that it didn't work? H4 and castle, in my understanding, do not look together well. Yeah, so he castled, e5, and here we are. Black has the control over center. Normally, if black can maintain these pawns, it's very good, right? So for now, you were asking the question, how does Fabi win? By playing good moves and preferably fast, considering his time troubles, right? Very promising position, I believe, in terms of playing for a win. He's not yet better, but strategically complex. There's something that Fabi actually does very well, playing principled moves. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to turn our attention to the game between Pragg and Magnus for a moment, because we have a very unexpected position on the board, as Magnus kind of showing he's angry.
He wants to win.
Something has gone wrong, so he's doing a kingside fianchetto, and surprisingly enough, transposed into a King's Indian.
But still
defense.
surprising move orders if you keep going. He still hasn't castled.
So this is like a same-ish, where we've committed our knight to e2, which isn't usually what we want. Now the move knight f6 to d7, what is the idea behind that? It's a twofold purpose. In this exact position, the bishop on g7 is passive.
Yes.
We would like to trade off dark squared bishops, and we're threatening to play the move bishop h6.
Oh, very nice.
Bishop h6, bishop takes h6, queen h4 check. So the idea behind the move knight d7 is to play bishop h6, but also to prepare the usual counter.
That's why Pragg played h4.
Exactly.
Stopping bishop h6.
And also stopping, if you will, f5. If you play f5, bishop g5 could be a little bit disconcerting. So h5.
Magnus still managed to get in bishop h6, but no.
At the cost of losing castling privileges. Okay, queen d2. Something tells me we might still be in theoretical waters, but they're shallow.
No, not really.
No
games.
No games.
Here. No games here. Let me find where was the last theoretical position. So this d5, I imagine a5 is not. Yeah. Now still some moves, some games after a5.
Right.
And what did we have? f3. 2 games after f3.
Only 2.
Only 2 games after f3, and nobody has played knight f7.
I mean, I think it's because of move order, right? If we castle, it will definitely transpose into some.
Yeah, like if you castle bishop e3, all of a sudden you're like one of the main lines of Semish King's Indian.
Right.
Yeah. So knight a6 is what people tried.
Right.
And if you only think about going to c5, it makes much more sense to go with the other knight, right? But this knight d7, precisely with the idea that Yasa mentioned.
Yeah.
Bishop h6, and especially if you're like naive with white and you go bishop e3, thank you very much for feeding me another tempo.
Right.
You've played bishop e3 and now you will capture. So yeah, all that makes sense, but no games after knight fd7.
We do have a fight over the c5 square, and Pragg has castled queenside. He's committed himself. Normally speaking, white is trying to play b3, king b2, a3, and very, very, very slowly he works up the strength, the energy to play b4. In the meanwhile, I noticed that Magnus, with the move bishop d7, is kind of telegraphing the fact he's abandoning the idea of playing f5. Normally speaking, you would be playing king g7, king f8, king g7, and prepping f5.
I was like, why not castle? I forgot the rook already moved.
Here's the thing. It's an illegal move, right? But if I don't call you on it, and we play for like 3 moves, I think the idea is
3 moves?
3 moves. Then it becomes legal. Like, okay, and the DGT board, crashes. But okay, your quick take. Who's happy out of this opening?
I think Magnus is happy because he got the type of position he wanted.
Which was?
The King's Indian setup where he can, it's going to be a long game.
Okay.
Where eventually he will try to break through somewhere.
I think in some ways he's happy because he came into this game in an incredibly belligerent mood, and he hasn't gotten a bad position for it, despite his belligerence. He's saved.
Absolutely. You're on tilt and you're starting with one G6.
Yes.
So after 15 moves having an equal position is a good result.
Correct.
Outcome of this one.
That was the answer I was looking for. All right, where would you like to lead us, Nasi?
Should we check how Alireza is doing?
Yes. I think Alireza is actually a little upset that he let a Magnus Carlsen slip away. And for Anish Giri, he's got to be a little bit careful because he just lost a tough game as white against Duda. And he just played the move E6, E5. I must confess, that is not a move that would have readily come to my mind. I was thinking that black was about to play B6 and bishop to B7, maybe prepping for C5, but E5, Verrassing, surprise.
I guess he's willingly going into the isolated pawn.
After takes on E5, knight takes E5, takes on D5. Are we trading a pair of knights?
Maybe take with the knight, yes.
Okay.
Because white knight is not too happy on D2. It has to spend some time coming back.
Probably, did you
B3,
say
F3?
coming back? B3, F3?
B3 probably.
Okay. And just tickling.
Bishop E6.
Okay, I'll fall for it. Black wants to play knight C4, and we do the players are getting to the position.
Yeah, they're following this line so far.
Now, will Anish play knight takes D5? I would say...
I say the eval bar says it's just equal.
Eval.
Yeah,
Even.
I think black has very active pieces, so it makes up for the isolated pawn.
I think that's a fair assessment as well.
One more
Gukesh
game.
family, Wesley?
Only game we haven't checked is Wesley. Let's catch up with the players.
Okay, so Joko Piano. Whoa. No, seriously, I've been taught for 50 years, revealing my age. Did you like that? That you don't play the move knight F1 because of the move knight A5, and your bishop gets trapped. So I've been taught that you always play bishop to B3 to avoid precisely what happened.
Maybe he forgot.
Yeah, that would be crazy, Wesley. So forgetting in a Joko Piano.
But he's a master of Joko Piano.
And somehow white is doing just fine. I don't get this, Miro. That allowing knight A5, isn't that like verboten? Isn't that we're taught this is naughty?
That's exactly what we were taught.
Yeah.
I have 30 games in a database. If I'm not mistaken, I've seen Anish Giri doing something very similar. And you can never be sure until you check, because all of those positions, they're very similar, like H3, H6 included or not, and so on and so on. But yeah, it does happen that nowadays people play knight F1, and believe it or not, but these are, say, the position we have with C4, bishop E6, bishop F2. It's no longer E4 opening. It looks like some sort of English Sicilian.
King's Indian defense.
Never mind Sicilian. Yeah, King's Indian. Even though it might have some Maroczy vibes as well.
Philidor. Philidor with E5 takes D4.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Anyway, so the structure is potentially quite explosive, I want to say. So say white's going to go knight D5, and doesn't matter how you capture. Bishop takes, like you can make an argument for C takes D5, E takes D5. White can, I mean, if you give me time, G4, F4, F5, push them maybe on the king side. So, yeah, rook E2. White's very solid. And again, even though black is not in danger of immediate collapse, remember something that I like to talk a lot, like the counterplay in terms of pawn pushes. Yes. Where do you have your pawn break here with black? It has to be F5, but it's very hard to prepare. Mm-hmm. And even if you go with F5, it's not like, it doesn't solve all your problems. So I reckon white is better simply because he can wait. So kind of, you can play the longer game. You have more useful moves, and black at some point will just run out of lot of constructive ideas.
And thank you, Miro. And Ben Underwood, our statistician, he likes to give us all kinds of possibilities and probabilities. Let's take a look at this graphic that he preferred as winning probabilities.
With white pieces.
Okay. And Duda...
This includes all GCT games, so all past GCT games in the Rapid.
Right. Duda
and Magnus
are right there.
Duda has more white wins than Magnus. Impressive.
Impressive. And Anish Giri is noted as a drawing player, right? Draws with white.
Well, I think we have a separate graph for draws with white. And look at Anish go.
Anish won that. That was quite the race, and he just came out of the right lane.
It's actually surprising Firouzja's second.
And how about with the black?
Yeah, I'd say winning with black, which is quite rare. Of course, Magnus, wow.
Wow.
Not rare for him.
Quite rare for everyone else.
Gukesh, Wesley, Prague.
Wow, Nodirbek hasn't won with the black pieces yet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Identify the weakness.
Let's say a draw with black. Anish wins again. No? Where is Anish? No, he doesn't
yellow.
win. I just assumed he would.
Firouzja.
Firouzja and Wesley are tied.
Okay, Wesley I would have guessed. Firouzja would not have been in that.
Wesley's not surprising, yes.
Yeah.
And Anish is in top 3 still.
I'm still stunned by Nodirbek not winning a single game with black.
Well, he hasn't played too many GCT events
yet. Okay.
Let's check back with Gukesh and Fabi. Looks like opening didn't go too well for Gukesh.
Oh, right. When we left it, it looked like a kind of one of those reverse.
I think Miro wants to show something.
I want to shout. Take the pawn. Take the pawn.
Whoa,
yes.
So it is on the board. Fabi is thinking, and it is a possibility to take the pawn on h4. And I would say sacrifice the bishop, but it's more or less obvious this bishop cannot be taken because queen h2, you just don't stop it. Yes, I'm not sure. I want to check a couple of moves back because after, say, bishop d3, rook c8. Knight d2 is the move that computer indicates is a bad one. And I'm wondering, what was such a problem? Knight c4, knight g4, and here? Does it mean you cannot stop bishop h4? Because last white's move e3 is not even criticized by the computer. And then it says, you know what, I changed my mind. Black is better after bishop takes h4. So apparently white has bishop d5, a tactical kind of counter trick.
Not obvious, by the way.
Yeah, not obvious. Queen takes g4, you win one of the bishops back. I imagine, okay, not win the bishop, but trade one of the bishops. Knight takes, queen takes, and possibly white has some compensation, but it's a pawn. You know, it's a pawn in a position where white does not have like a serious attack of any sorts. So Fabi should absolutely take this pawn. That's my final point.
And Fabi absolutely needing a win, and Gukesh coming off a hat trick. Clock times between these two?
They still have plenty of time, but
plenty of time.
Fabi could spoil the event for Gukesh right now.
Exactly.
And stop his winning streak.
Well, our tournament co-leader, Duda. Let's jump in there and see what we have.
He played your move f5, which computer didn't approve. Now he's down a pawn, but you know it's a messy Sicilian, so.
Well, I mean, we've reached the point where we're kind of pot committed, aren't we? Bishop takes d5. Right? I mean,
there's a long castle. Might be unpleasant.
At what moment? Sorry.
Right now, bishop d5 and castle's long.
You don't take my bishop.
No.
Oh. Party pooper. Castle's long. Okay. Well, I have to move my bishop back. What am I blundering? I'm blundering a discovered attack. I get it, but. At least I'm not down. I'm not down material. I'm not that happy, but.
Yeah, I don't think we have an advantage. That knight on e5 is just gorgeous.
I can imagine this bishop coming to f6, knight coming to c4, and I'll have some issues. But I'm saying, as far as Duda is concerned, if he doesn't take on d5, after, for example, bishop d7,
and he'll just be down a pawn for no compensation. Yes.
And frankly, worse. Knight c4, bishop f6. Black has all the play and a pawn. Bishop takes d5 required, Miro, by Duda, and what does the engine say?
Well, you don't need me, Jose. Everything what you said was correct. Bishop d5, white is port committed here. If you don't take bishop d5, you might as well resign.
Right.
Castle long, extra pawn to bishops. Then, after bishop d5, indeed, black does not take. Captures here. And black is better. Right. Doesn't matter, because two bishops, because they finite, because one more tricky move that I wanted to point out after bishop e4, rook h2 is here. A sneaky little move, attacking. Like if you take, it's obviously knight d3. If you don't take, you say rook g2, then I'm sorry, I'll take this one.
What a pawn grabber.
So, rook h2 is a very annoying move because like your queen's attacked on the second row and you have to move the queen. You cannot kind of interpose anything. So you kind of have to go queen e1 and then black just goes king b8, slowly building up the position. Knight to c4, bishop f6. Black is just better.
Black's for choice, for sure.
Wow.
Fabi, I've been told, missed his chance.
He didn't take on
it.
He didn't take on it.
He didn't take. He didn't take. I think deliberately he didn't take. He did play h5 after spending quite some time, by the way.
Oh, wow.
You know how hard it would be for him. I mean, must take the pawn.
Yeah, so Fabi's down to less than 10 minutes. Wow. So what surprises me in this game, like first of all, Fabi committed so much time into this one and ended up not taking. But even before that, Gukesh didn't spend much time to reach this position where his h-pawn can be taken and he would have been worse. So h5, queen e2, black is still better according to the engine. Just like play reasonable moves, queen to d7. So this inclusion of h4, h5, it's not clear who benefits more
the knight
is for now. The knight on g4 is nice. Yeah. The knight on g4 is nice. To kick away this knight would mean to play f2, f3, which looks terrible. Yeah. Even though Compi was mentioning that maybe you get rid of this bishop on g2
and then play f3,
just to play f2, f3, right? Because the other knight is
and to win a pawn.
But
well, you would think so, but then black goes b5, and it turns into one absolute mess that we probably shouldn't analyze on air. But a very, very sharp position, that's what I'm saying.
I like Fabi's position with the knight on g4, but his time management's not great. He's down to 8 minutes against 18.
You know, for me, that's always been a confidence thing. When I see players really using a lot of the clock, it just means that they're calculating and recalculating the same.
Doubting themselves.
They're doubting themselves. So it's a confidence thing. Right now, Fabi is not showing the elan that has brought him.
You need one
US
win in the tournament to get that confidence back.
Yeah, to shake the rust. Let's jump to the game of Magnus because he's playing with Prague, and both these players are really. They need a win, and Magnus is feeling a lot of pressure to win. So when we left it...
So he has managed some breakthrough on the king side.
Exactly. Well, the knight was sitting on d3, and I thought that Magnus had basically abandoned f7, f5. I was wrong. He did manage to get it in, and again, I was mentioning that king b2, a3, slowly. But
now I like how
and very quickly Magnus is just
G5 all out.
G5. And
this looks very passive.
This is not the way White, when he's playing f3, same-ish, plays for an aggressive attack. Nonetheless, how does Magnus
continue?
Yeah, to increase the pressure.
Increase the pressure, but Miro's ready to tell us how much it was.
Yeah, as a big expert in using the chess engine, I can tell you what the strongest move is.
Please.
Well, anyway, f4, all of us agree, very tempting.
Right.
Like, make it a Keynesian structure. You don't have the silly bishop on g7, you have the pressure. But what's the follow-up? And then black goes c6, and I was trying to deconstruct. Okay, c6 is not something out of this world, but why on earth computer gives c6 is much better than anything else? And then I go here and I go here, and there is, there are some pieces on this diagonal, and apparently White cannot move them all
And b3 also.
And defend this, and b3 also. Yes, so c6, and the powerful threat is queen d8, queen b6.
That's hidden.
It's beautiful.
That's hidden, but also it's Magnus we are dealing with, and he's capable of spotting these things.
Wow.
So one of the words I use when Magnus beats something, I say outmaneuver.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he does.
Because if you look at this position, Black's queen is not really participating, so getting it to b6 is so strong.
Right. Because the second best move is queen d8.
Immediately
kind of telegraph.
Yeah, telegraph. You know what? The c pawn's going to move next move.
Yeah. Wow. That's easy to miss. There's what to say. That is remarkable.
Are there some other ideas?
Yeah.
Position?
It says king b8, it says bc, but it's like f4. You go for f4, c6, or anything else, which is pleasant for Black. But basically, from what I can pick up, White is not against capturing on f5 and putting a knight on e4.
Right.
So that
f4
kind of cements your advantage in this regard. Yeah.
Could you just play a few moves for me? F4, queen c1, let's say.
Queen to c1.
Just, yeah. I don't know why.
And we go c6 as a
And
promise.
bishop to f1.
Bishop to f1 and queen to d8.
And queen to c2.
And queen to c2, and then it's c takes d5. Now it's already a choice, right? Because I would think, knight
I would
d5,
want to play
right?
knight takes d5.
And this goes to e6. The other
I get a square, you get
yeah?
a square. Nice.
But Black's two knights will have good
squares.
Yeah,
I think knights are getting there, and eventually Black's going to trade the bishop.
Why did I put the bishop on f1? I wanted to play rook on, I wanted to release
rook
my rook.
Okay, let's try rook h1 here. Knight d4, queen goes to d1, c1,
c3,
knight c5.
Oh, sorry, a5 is not hanging.
Nothing's hanging. Getting to b3. And
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's actually a very, very dangerous position.
So queen does...
So the moment Black plays c6 and queen d8, computer says it's more than a pawn for Black advantage, like minus 1.2, minus 1.3. So that means the position is not good.
Somewhere in Zagreb, one Gary Kasparov is smiling. The King's Indian defense not only is viable, it's good.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
H4 though. H4. We were about to leave this game, but after H4, you know what the problem with H4 move? It can be taken.
2. B6.
He could have had this with the pawn on h5.
Right. And Magnus has missed the c6, queen d8 idea because b6 is just not in keeping with what he's done.
So
Pragg is happy.
Got traded.
Pragg is happy. The G2 is nicely protected. Okay, the knight on f2 rather stinks, so get rid of it, trade it.
D2 was played. Is he prepping b4 at some point?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's also thinking about knight b5 followed by b4.
Or knight a2 b4 is also interesting.
Yeah. Magnus has not played this very well.
I think with his last move, rook g6, he wants to go rook h6 and maybe get an active queen.
Makes sense.
It's like, what are we attacking on the king side?
Right. In the best case, you might win your pawn back on g2. Best.
No. That pawn's not going anywhere. My bishop's stapled there on f1.
But in the worst case, your pieces might get driven back. For example, do your worst.
H5.
Rook h6.
Sure.
I munch. You munch.
Take.
And I go b4. Finally, I'm trying to get rid. I'm trying to get rid of this knight.
I feel like that knight is trapped. You tricked me.
No, I would never do that.
Yes, it's not looking good.
No, but that's the whole point that the b3, a3, king b2 is all about. Pragg is prepping for b4, and Magnus is going to have to face some questions. Miro, jump in on this one. We didn't like the pawn sacrifice, obviously.
No.
But how bad or good is it?
How bad or good it is?
Yeah.
Well, white's better. You figured it out without me. White's up a pawn. Knight b5, however, gives Magnus a chance to build up a fortress by capturing b5 and just go knight b8. It's not an attractive continuation, but you could just hold it like that.
So tell me, knight b5?
Just stay, go to b8. Knight on c5 is solid, and if you go b4, take with the pawn, then, okay, your bishop on f1 is kind of not great.
But with the knight...
Yeah, knight d7, and just, beg for a draw. Pragg went with something else.
Right.
Guys, while we're watching this, we missed that beautiful pawn win from Gukesh.
Okay,
something we didn't spot.
Uh-oh. Let's jump to Gukesh.
And he's up a healthy pawn now. If you go back a couple of moves. Yes, here. We're looking at this line, and we're taking the h5 pawn, but look at what he did. Next move.
Nice.
Queen f5.
Knight
Fab
e7.
is down to like 30 seconds. We're in an endgame, down a pawn. White has a good position as well. Does he have any chances to survive this?
No. This is just a very, very, very good position for white.
I also see there's knight d4 move in the current position.
Knight d4. What you'd really like to do is get your knight to g5 and or the f4 square. So I love the move knight to d4 because you're ready to go.
Or you can, if rook e8, then maybe you can go knight f3, knight g5, make black's king uncomfortable.
And
that's also
from my French, my days with the French defense, putting a knight on f4, just loved it. From the opening, Fabi came out really, really nice, but when he missed d4, Gukesh struck with the move d4, it was suddenly one-way traffic.
Big blunder by Fabi.
Big blunder. Pawn up for Gukesh, and looks to be storming to his fourth win in a row as the reigning world champion is tied for first after 4 rounds of play. We are in round 5.
Yeah, he's having a great tournament. And another leader, Jan-Krzysztof, is also not also. Gukesh is doing great, but the other leader is doing badly.
Also,
he is much worse.
I will jump to Jan's game against Ivan Saric. And yep, we left it. And bishop takes d5, queen e3, queen e4.
So we can see rook h2 in all the lines we're looking at, but I still think black is quite active, although this last move, rook d5, got a question mark now. Why
rook to d5. Why did we need rook to d5?
First, what's the idea if we take?
Sorry, pause just for a moment. if he had taken on b2,
take back. If you go
c3,
knight a4.
Good morning. I mean, I'm supposed to be checkmating you on b2 and a1 squares, but knight a4 is a very good answer. Alert. That is not checkmate. I wonder if you went and played queen a1 checkmate and the other person said good game, whether that counts. I don't think so. Sorry, that is not a good idea for Ivan. He played instead rook d5, and you were about to say that's not a good move. Tell me why.
I'm asking a question. Why can't white just take it? Twice.
Twice. Good question. Let's have a look.
What is Ivan's idea?
Is queen h2, how can I...
Queen
rook
h2, just move the rook.
Rook h2? No.
There might be some tactic. Because the rook on g1 is not protected, b2, pawn, knight on a4, right? But how can we connect it all?
Okay, so if I go knight takes b2, knight takes b2, rook h2, there's bishop e4. Ooh. Rook h2, bishop e4.
Maybe we just start with simple rook d8 move here.
Rook to... Actually... You know, it's strange. Queen h2? Where do you... Queen h2 just rook moves.
And
well,
following this line, by the way. It's on the board.
And now Ivan is going to share with us his idea. Ivan, you played rook d5, you sacrificed a pawn. Now you can't stop it.
Because the point is queen e5, guys. I think the point is queen e5, and you cannot really stop it because queen e4, there is rook d4. Maybe that's kind of a tactical point that makes sense. You go to d4, you attack this queen, and it's nowhere to go. So even though rook d5 wasn't the strongest, capturing on d5 is still dangerous. After rook d8, computer says black is better. Black is better because of all the ideas you've mentioned. Sometimes it's queen h2, or say queen goes here, it's once again queen e5, and then b2 is hanging. In a way, it wasn't such an important pawn on e6, right? And now the bishop works, sometimes we'll be capturing g4.
A question, could white just play queen c5 to not let you play queen
yeah, that's one of the options. Now, let me see. Queen to c5 is maybe the best move, but then takes and will be taking b2, it seems.
b5.
Because if knight takes, if b knight takes on c5, there is b5 now.
I see.
Well, and you could never play b5 with queens on. So that's one of the benefits. Like you sacrifice d5 pawn, but if the queens are off the board, then you have b5.
Yeah. So, and by the way, rook d8 was played by Ivan.
All played, right?
All played.
Traded here, queen d5, rook d8.
And queen
Ivan Saric. Huh?
Ivan is playing a wonderful tournament so far. You say queen f3, queen e5.
Looks so scary.
But just pause here, because the strangest thing is, at the moment, it's like this is, it's very rare where I'm trying to mate you on b7 and you're trying to mate me on b2, and we both have different diagonals, right? I just need to put this rook to f7 and life will be good. So if I were to go rook f1, you're just kicking me, right?
I thought I could just take on b2, no? Because the knight on a4 is also hanging.
Queen takes f6.
Take knight a4, yeah.
Knight a4.
I think you have to play c3 or something.
I hate c3.
Me too.
You want a funny move after rook g1?
Yeah, rook f1?
So queen e5, rook f1. Yeah, like queen e5, rook f1.
Yes.
Rook d4, rook f4 is the maneuver for black. You just go rook d4.
And you can't take on f6, there's rook d1 check.
And you cannot take the rook because there's knight d2 check. So rook d4, rook f4 just wins.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious.
That's when your computer have an access to one.
By the way, we have queen f3 on the board. We might be seeing a variation like queen f6. Clock times for the players?
Not in time trouble yet. 3 minutes against 4.
And where would you like to take us?
I've heard that Alireza's in big trouble in his game. There's only been 21 moves.
Alireza in trouble. Sorry, that's a game that we kind of like let slip away from our attention. That was the isolated queen pawn game, as I remember.
And we said black has active pieces, and
he does.
He really does, especially now after d4. He got so much space. I like this g5 move.
G5, not for the faint-hearted.
Oh, this went really badly for Alireza.
Wow. First of all, he played. So you know something went wrong when you play bishop h3, and the very next move you take it back. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. By the way, d2 is winning a piece, right? Not that he didn't want it. He said, I've got bigger game.
Yeah, I think you're just taking on g3 and...
This is terrible, honestly.
This is just game over.
Oh, this is just... This was terrible. Alireza just getting outplayed more or less from the opening through the middle game, and everything went wrong. The wheels fell off after bishop h3 and bishop g2. Anish, extra pawn up.
Looks like a very clean game for Anish.
And he's got a winning attack to go with his extra pawn. Oh boy, just...
If I may, Alireza has done it to himself. Because say move 15, he captured on e6. It's all okay. Just develop your pieces. And, and he went for e4, knight d2, apparently missing the whole concept. So g5 restricts the development. And
F4.
especially bishop h3, king h8, which turns out you cannot really take. And then we didn't look at it, but just believe, guys, that bishop e6, black goes queen e8, threatens this, threatens d3, white loses material.
Right.
And if you cannot take and you start looking at the position, you're starting to look for the move. And then you realize, wait, there is no move. Bishop d2, there's d3 followed by knight f3.
Knight e4.
Right, so immediately, or knight e4 for this matter.
Yeah.
Right? So you've played this series of active moves and then you realize, oh, come on, I have to go back. And then everything's bad. Like literally everything's bad. So in the span of like 2-3 moves, it went from being potentially slightly better for white to just lost for white.
Gone.
And very well played by
Anish.
It's all it takes in chess, huh? 1 or 2 bad moves, that's it.
Truly.
That's simple.
It's never too late to spoil a position. And we're seeing that. I wanted to go to the game of Gukesh and Fabi for a moment because somehow, with great effort, Fabi somehow has gotten himself into a rook ending.
I think this one's ending in a draw. Yes, that's Wesley and Nodirbek.
Two players, Nodirbek has really had a bad start. And it's not gone well for him, whereas Wesley...
And Wesley's been the old Wesley we know today, 2 draws out of 2.
But
He
holding his...
decisive games, yes.
Holding his plus. I want to jump to the game of Duda, queen f3. Ivan Saric sacrificed a pawn, and he is playing it slowly. Could he be thinking, what beside, how do you not play queen e5?
Maybe he's looking at queen h2, but...
Could he be considering queen g7?
Possible as well. Oh, bishop takes b2.
Uh-oh.
We didn't notice this move. So he wants to play knight a3 check. But is this just a draw?
A draw?
Like perpetual. I see a perpetual. No?
You do? Good for
queen
you.
c2 checkmate.
Oh.
So you have to go to a1 and then knight c2.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think he just bailed out maybe with a draw.
Because of the clock as well.
Yeah, he only has 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think now, unless there's something more.
Wow. So Ivan had a position of strength, and he just played this move, bishop b2, and he said, okay, I'm black against Duda. I'll make a draw, but it's easy for us. We're in studio. Mm-hmm. Nice AC. Well, not AC, but... I'm told that one day the repairman is going to come. No.
He's taking his time before he makes a repetition.
He's going to go down to 10 seconds before claiming the draw.
Yeah, I don't see how he could improve here. He needs the dark squared bishop now more than ever, but it's gone.
But for those of you who are joining us late, we believe that Ivan Saric had played a really wonderful game, and had he continued in the style that brought him to this position with queen e5, he would have had an advantage, and a significant one at that. But he bailed with the move bishop takes b2, and this allowed our tournament co-leader to save
down
the
to
game.
10 seconds now. You're right, he really reached.
He really did.
Yeah. And now they've repeated twice, and there's third time.
And for the audience. All right, we're going to jump to the game of Gukesh and Fabi.
Let's watch that endgame.
Because we're in a rook ending, and although what's the notorious all rook endgames are drawn?
Not this one.
Does this remind us of Firouzja's endgame with Magnus?
No, because Magnus had an active rook. Here, Fabi has a passive rook. So it's much worse.
Much worse.
Yeah.
So if you took this rook on f6 and teleported it to a2, we would be looking at the game of Firouzja and Magnus from yesterday.
So today, right? This morning.
No,
it was first round today. Yes, yes.
Yeah, the first round today.
We're saying Magnus is tilting after that game.
Good point. All right, so for Gukesh to win, he has to play moves like f3, king f2, king e3, probably put the rook on e5 and play for g4.
Question I have for you, Yasser. I like the rook on c5, but is it better to put it on a7 right now? Give check and put it on a7. Is that stronger?
I'm not sure because I'm thinking that I'm going to have to play g4, f3, g4 somewhere.
But on the other hand, Black's king would be worse if I put my rook on a7.
Right. Okay. Well, let's just leave this game alone for a moment and jump to the game of Alireza. This looks awful.
About to get checkmated.
Awful with a capital A.
And he resigns.
Wow.
I think that missed opportunity against Magnus is still affecting him.
We were talking about Magnus being on tilt, but
so is Alireza.
And congratulations, Anish.
That
was a very, very fine game.
Yeah, Anish playing well.
Gukesh did put the rook on a7. It's because
you're going to have to talk a little softer. You don't want to impact the players in Zagreb.
Fabi's king is really bad now on h6.
And again, we are looking to play f3, g4, and because you just said it, the king is on h6.
Do we even need to? Could we just start moving the king? Because
King
Black is in
F1.
Zugzwang. You have to move the rook.
So this rook would kind of...
And then just king f3.
So let's say, okay, hold on. It's Black to move.
It's Black to play.
And so the moment I
you don't
play
want to
rook...
move, but you have to.
Yes, king f3.
Yes.
The rook would, for example, move back.
King f4.
I'll give you a check. You'll go to F, just for
e3,
argument.
sure.
And
king d4.
And now you're saying to me, you're going to sacrifice this pawn? You're going to do it like this.
And rook a6 and f5, yes.
Exactly. Boom. Now.
Forcing rook trade and.
It's not so clear you're getting the rook trade. Check.
King f5.
King e5. King h7. I want to take this.
Rook g6, a6 should be winning.
Yeah, you're probably right. Probably because you've got this great.
But I wonder if I moved my king to the wrong direction. I could have gone king c5.
Yeah, your king could have been way over here. But no question about it, Gukesh is the one.
Yeah, I mean, he should be winning this.
He really should.
I said the eval bar, it says +3 or +4. So.
Even, I would not have guessed it to be that high. But yes, he's picking up the fact that Zugzwang, the king on h6 is stuck. But on the other hand, had Fabi put his king on g8, it wouldn't really have much of a happy life there either on the last rank.
Yeah, and I think Fabi's down to 15 seconds, and he knows this is a lost endgame.
My goodness, Fabi will tumble to -2. And in rapids, that's a 4-point gap that he's giving to his rivals.
He will have to pull Magnus and win 9 out of 9 in Blitz.
Yes, that will be required.
So rook c6 was played now, and the Gukesh has plenty of time to figure out the right plan to finish this. He could play f3, g4, your plan. That also looks good.
Yeah. But I think he's just going for that just king to the queen side.
Yeah, your line, guys. King to e4, check.
Yes.
And then what I think not only computers say, but I feel like this is right. Like king d4, rook e2, and just give the f pawn.
Completely.
Take on a6, take on a6 and rook f2, rook c6. And how black ever gets counterplayed.
I think black king is so bad.
Yeah,
it needs to be on f5.
So after rook here,
just a6,
king, rook here.
Yeah, I'm guessing king c5 should be.
Fabi just made a move with 1 second on the clock.
No.
Oof. Yeah.
Oof.
And he didn't go after the f2 pawn. He gave another check. So now, wait a second.
King e5?
King e5.
Or c5?
King c5.
Both should be good, right?
A moment ago, we wanted our king on c5, so...
Isn't it just like a king e5, rook c6, king d5, and f4 in the final Zugzwang?
Yes.
Maybe on king e5, like rook d2 right away?
Gukesh has time, though.
Yeah. He's not in a rush. Enjoying this endgame. King c5, rook d2. Now the question, do we play f4 or just take on a6?
I like f4.
I think both of them are winning.
Yeah.
f4 played.
F4 played?
Yeah. I like f4 because I love this idea of rook takes a6 and f4, f5. Any rook trades, just game over. That's the easy way to victory.
Okay, do we go towards the pawn? Or come back towards our pawns?
I'm kind of thinking of d5. You give me another check. I'm thinking of e5. You give me another check. Kind of like the idea of rook f6. Yeah, like there might just be a checkmate down there.
2 minutes for Gukesh to decide which way he should go. Miro, is both of them winning?
Both of them. Any legal move in this particular position leads to +4. So anything you can.
All legal
moves. Seriously, because your king is in check. Yeah.
Losing on time is the only way you don't have a winning advantage, and he has gone. I think he's beelining his way to the f6 square.
He could also come back king e4 and not even give up g3 pawn.
Wait, well, isn't king e6? Medio king e5?
This was my way, was to go to f6. Now, for example...
Can you include rook a8?
Right.
There's king f7 in such positions, right?
Yes.
This trick. King f7, if rook g3, king g8.
Ooh, beautiful.
By the way, please play g5. I've got to... I'm not taking the pawn. I'm taking that one. Nice. Yeah, but I was saying, go play for checkmate. King to e5, king to f6. And again, after king e5, if you go immediately for this pawn...
Then we were looking at this, right? Rook a6 and f5.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the dream.
Gukesh down to 1 minute. I think he's just figuring out his final plan. And then he's going to blitz out next moves.
I think Miro kind of showed that he's a problemist as he was looking king e6 to...
Okay, Gukesh had the king on e6, but then changed his mind and played king e5.
King to e6 to f6 to f7 to g8. But king f6.
Yeah, if he remembers this mate idea, he's going to go for it.
You bet. I mean, that kind of gets branded into your mind. Once you see that, it's such a beautiful
He's caught up on the clock, though, now both of them under 35 seconds.
Whoa.
Okay, King repeated D5. Once and went the other way.
Whoa.
Completely changed his mind. Interesting.
Which is still okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Just do something. You can go after the a-pawn. You can go for a checkmate.
But here we don't have f5.
But do we need to?
No, I guess it's just the...
Rook b6, king b7, a-pawn goes. Yeah. You'll never ever be in time to create any counterplay.
Yeah, rook b6 is simple, actually. Yes, agreed. That's just...
Or king b7 to start with.
You can start with this.
Oh, wait a second. Now it's rook a3 at the very...
But then f5.
No.
Then f5.
Yeah, that was f5.
Okay.
But this way, just, I guess...
Rook b6?
c6 or rook b6. Yeah.
Rook b6, rook takes f4, a6, rook takes h4, a7.
And you can't even sack your rook anymore.
I don't allow you to sacrifice the rook anymore. You're right. I'll just...
That's it. He's played rook f6 just because he wants to keep that pawn alive as well.
I guess you king g7.
Lost king g7, yeah.
Well,
that wasn't necessary.
Kind of an extra finesse, not necessarily required.
So that if you're getting a check from the side, like rook f7, then you're going to go rook c7. So kind of, to make a statement,
nice.
to show that you're.
Very nice.
Well, I must say this has been a very, very nice game by Gukesh. The moment he was worse coming out of the opening, but the moment he got in d4, and from that moment onwards, he had the advantage. He won a pawn, and he's been converting it very, very nicely. And we see the fruits of his conversion here as he's about to force Fabi to give up his rook for the passer.
Very nice endgame technique by Gukesh.
Yeah.
And that's his 4th win in a row. Incredible.
Poker? What? 4 wins in a row?
We still have 1 game left, guys.
Maybe we thought
Magnus
poker,
is still playing.
Poker.
You're still forgetting, yeah.
Magnus.
But I think they're repeating, because I saw this was the position like 10 minutes ago.
Not much has happened.
Nothing has changed. He's still down a pawn, but the extra pawn is the g2 pawn.
Okay, just imagine.
Okay, they're now repeating 3 times.
I was about to say, imagine that Magnus had the white pieces. How close would he be to, to winning this game? No. Somebody's stopping the clock and saying, I think that was 4 time repetition. A very dissatisfying game for, I think, both players, but more maybe Magnus, because Magnus did not have to play the move h4. I feel like some points were left on the table in this round.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In those drawn games, and also I think the game that ended up, our only decisive game, was it?
No,
Alireza against Anish.
We had 2.
We had 2?
Gukesh also won.
Gukesh won, of course,
Yeah, speaking of Gukesh, look at this line score.
He started with a loss against Duda, and then since then he's been unstoppable, winning game after game.
Very impressive.
Now he's in sole lead since Duda didn't win his game. We have a sole leader. But let's check in with Christian. Over to you.
Gukesh is having an absolutely brilliant event so far after that loss in the first round against Duda. But right now he will be facing the former world champion Magnus Carlsen in the final game of the day. And this was a moment of hesitation between himself and Fabiano. This was the moment after a3. You guys painted a nice picture. He was worse out of the opening, but Fabiano had to not hesitate, and he had to take on h4. Take on h4, take on h4, queen to h4. This is very easy to see. You're going to get checkmated on h2. The only way to stop that is to sacrifice the queen with queen to g4. That's obviously not a good idea. But what I'm sure Fabi did not like after bishop to h4 was bishop to f3. And this one is much more tricky to assess, because right now, if you go, for example, h5, which is a very typical move in this position, then I take on g4, take on g4, take on h4, queen takes h4, you still have a lot of compensation as black and perhaps the better position, but it's not as clear to see how you're going to deliver that checkmate or that final decisive attack against the white king. The best move after bishop to f3 would have been to go f5, and this adds another element to black's attack, and that is the rook potentially swinging via the 6th rank towards the h file and towards the white king. So after f5, you take, I take, you take on g4, I take on g4 with the f pawn, and it's going to be extremely difficult for you to stop me from going rook to f6, rook to h6. You just simply don't have enough time to swing your pieces on the other side of the board. So this was the huge missed opportunity for Fabiano. Obviously, he's hesitating a bit too much. It doesn't feel like he eased into this tournament as of right now, but still plenty of games to go, and we will have a very special guest coming up during the 3rd round. Another world champion, Garry Kasparov, is going to be with us to analyze the game between the former world champion Magnus Carlsen and Gukesh. So absolutely don't go anywhere.
Thank you, Christian. It does feel like Fabi has not found his groove. Having said that, let's take a look at the standings.
Let's have a look after 5 rounds, right? We have a sole leader for the first time in the event. That's Gukesh, current world champion. And only point behind is Jan-Krzysztof Duda. Then 2 players with 6 points, Magnus and Wesley.
Big win there by Anish, and I'm very surprised to see Alireza at the very bottom coming into the tournament. He was the second favorite. What are we doing on break?
As we go to break, Anastasia talked to the players, so take a listen and we'll be right back.
How does it feel to be a part of the 10th anniversary of the Grand Chess Tour?
I didn't even know it's 10th anniversary, but anyway, I'm happy to play again in Croatia, in my country, and I really hope to do well this year, as well as every year, but hopefully this year will be a bit different.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. It's not that I have always been, a full tour player. It's my, I think, second time. So it's like an honor for me. Also, it's my I don't know which time exactly here in Croatia, but it's been it's been some time, and I always have fond memories of this place because I don't think I have done any good in here. I don't think I was in top 3, for instance, but probably after my first time in Croatia, I flew directly to Sochi, Praggnanandhaa, to the World Cup, the one that I won in the end. So it's always that it started here, And also I won twice against Giri in here. So it's everything is the same. So I always like this feeling, you just feel younger, just taking yourself back in time. It's nice.
Oh, it feels great. I'm very honored that they invited me this year. I need to play a bit better. Romania didn't go at all as planned, but it feels great to be part of the history of Grand Chess Tour, and I would like to congratulate the people who are behind this tour. Also, Gary Kasparov, also the Singfields and the St. Louis Chess Club, and also Superbet for being among many other people for being part of this great history of chess.
Oh, it's also a Grand Chess Tour anniversary because also my wedding anniversary year. I didn't know this, the Grand Chess Tour anniversary. No, it's beautiful. Anniversaries are beautiful. Yeah, I'm really happy for the tour.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be back here, and it feels very special, especially this year because it's 10th anniversary.
Yeah, it feels great to be playing GCT, something that I wanted to play when I was a kid. And yeah, coming back from win in Bucharest feels good. So I'm looking forward to playing in Zagreb.
Feels good. Also considering I think I've played every Grand Chess Tour since the beginning, since 2015. It's changed a lot. The formats have changed. The players, the locations sometimes have changed, but it's been a really important constant in the chess world. We've had the Grand Chess Tour bringing most, if not sometimes all, of the best players in the world, many locations, and then very often culminating in an exciting final, which this year I'm glad, I've already said it before, I'm glad that it's going to be Final Four again. I'm pretty happy about that format change. But yeah, it's definitely one of the most important tournament circuits that we've seen, especially in the last decade or two.
It feels great. I've played in Bucharest, and here I'm playing in Croatia Rapid Blitz. It's my first time in Croatia, so I'm really excited and looking forward to my first Croatia experience. And yeah, it feels great. I mean, it's a truly important tournament for many top players. And Grand Chess Tour, I mean, whole organizers are doing a great job, and I really appreciate their effort, and I really hope that it will last a very long time, and we'll see many more exciting tournaments.
I haven't really thought about that, and obviously it's been a few years since I've been a regular participant, but yeah, I enjoy playing some events, and especially here.
Yeah, it feels great. Yeah, this is my second time as a full tour participant and third time as I had a wild card in 23. So yeah, all the tournaments are of high quality and yeah, very well established. So I'm happy to be a part of that.
When you come to Croatia, you have to find the nearest sailboat
and visit one of the sunniest coastlines in Europe.
And drop the anchor at any of our 1,000 islands.
You have to listen to the biggest Croatian musician, the sea organ in Zadar.
You have to swim here.
Dive there.
Sail everywhere.
You have to come to Croatia.
Croatia, full of islands to discover, full of life.
The 2025 Grand Chess Tour heads to St. Louis for two thrilling back-to-back events, the St. Louis Rapid Blitz and the prestigious Sinquefield Cup. Watch top grandmasters battle in fast-paced time controls and intense classical matches as they fight for points in the race for the GCT title. It's a chess showdown you won't want to miss. Be there to witness the drama unfold live from the chess capital of America, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you come to Croatia, you have to bring your appetite with you.
And you have to taste our food.
You have to try the world's most awarded cheese.
And enjoy wine tasting in any of our wineries.
You have to surprise your taste buds with truffles.
You have to eat here.
Drink there.
Enjoy everywhere.
You have to come to Croatia.
Croatia, full of flavors, full of life.
National titles are up for grabs as rising stars and chess legends converge in the chess capital of America, St. Louis, Missouri, for the 2025 U.S. Senior, Junior, and Girls Championships. Beginning July 15th, 30 of these players across three fields will compete for a total prize fund of $225,000. 2024 U.S. Senior Champion Vladimir Kolian returns to defend his
To Croatia, you have to refresh your mind by the pool.
And heal your body in our thermal spas.
You have to enjoy a massage by the sea.
And regain your smile in any of our dental clinics.
You will never walk alone on these hiking trails.
You have to swim here.
Relax there.
Cycle everywhere.
You have to come to Croatia.
Croatia, full of well-being, full of life.
Corporate Chess League started in 2018, and we started it because we wanted to get the corporations around St. Louis to get together, casually play chess, and network together. So each corporation has their own team. They bring 4 to 6 people every week, and they play over the board in-person chess.
In our team, for all of us to be here, we don't see each other throughout our week. We work in different departments in different areas. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to hang out with your other peers at the club.
So what myself and my coworkers get out of playing in the Corporate Chess League is camaraderie, getting to hang out with people from work, from different departments, getting to meet people from other companies, learn what they do, and obviously just enjoy the game of chess that we all love.
We have about 10 teams right now. We average 10 to 12 teams every year. So if your corporation is interested, or if you work for a corporation and you're trying to get a team, all you need to do is go to our website, stlouischessclub.org, and all the information is there.
When you come to Croatia, you have to visit the city where I have found my love, Dubrovnik, and see a concert in this place.
You have to enjoy coffee on any of our squares.
And see the most beautiful Croatian building.
You have to learn all about our legends.
You have to party here.
Take a photo there.
Dance everywhere.
You have to come to Croatia.
Croatia, full of history and culture.